I'd like to call this meeting to order, regular council meeting to order. The Township of Black River Madison acknowledges the Abitibi and the Sanipic Nation traditional territory. We live, play, and work here together, and together we shall build a strong and inclusive community. And also just a reminder to all in attendance, that council meetings are recorded and made available to the public on the township website for review. Need a mover to seconder for the confirmation of the agenda. I got Councillor Gathering and Councillor Ryan.
Can I read the motion, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
It was moved by Councillor Gaddery, seconded by Councillor Rondo, that the agenda for the regular council meeting of August 29th, 2023 be approved as printed.
All
I would like to move that I can include the addendum to my greater report for Sebastian.
actually, Councillor, okay with that, with the meeting agenda?
Can I, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, you please.
So we'll pass along the addendum report for council, so that'll be an addition or an inclusion to agenda item 70.
Just remind me when the time comes, so I don't miss it. All those in favor of the motion as amended? Seeing no objections, carried, and I can't see it's on the screen.
Not yet, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Seeing no objections, the motion is carried.
Thank you.
Next item is anyone have disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Seeing none, move along. Item number 4 is the minutes. I guess we can move in second again.
Yes,
Mover to seconder for the second, like Councilor Longo. And Councilor Diamond.
it was moved by Councillor Rondo and seconded by Councillor Diamond that the following minutes are hereby adopted. Minutes of a regular council meeting held July 11th, 2023. Minutes of a special council meeting held July 18th, 2023 and August 15th, 2023. Minutes of an emergency council meeting held July 19th, 2023. The minutes acknowledged are minutes of a Board of Health meeting held March 30th, 2023.
Any questions or concerns regarding that? There's now a call for vote. All those in favor of the motion? Seeing no objections, carried. Next item is that we need another mover to seconder for our consent agenda item number 5, Councilor Rondo. And Councilor Bennett. Thank you.
It was moved by Councillor Rondo and seconded by Councillor Diamond. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the August 29th, 2023 council agenda be received as the motions contained therein be approved and recorded as listed below.
Any, that's the question. Yes, Councilor Hill.
Mr. Mayor,
Whoops, sir.
if the council members have questions on it, they can need to remove it from the consent agenda and add it to the agenda.
Okay. Is there items that we'd like to have removed from the consent agenda? Councilor Neal?
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these things, why we're looking at them up here, the Greenbelt part, what does that do for us as a council? That would be my question that needs to be answered later on.
And yes, Councilor Diamond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 5D.
They get removed from the consent agenda?
Yeah, to this consent. I don't. Same issue as Keith. So.
Okay, so we'll remove items 5B and 5D then. Am I correct on that, Madam Clerk?
Yes. And 5B and 5D will become agenda items under other business, so 12A and 12B.
You will remind me as usual. correct?
Yes,
We could add 5C to that as well, because that still has to do with the Greenbelt. So 5B and 5C, thank you.
It's all good. If the topic of discussion need to be out where they need to be.
Just questions.
No, that's good. Although, did you want to read the resolution? I should read it before I ask for a vote, I think.
okay. Moved by Councillor Rondo and seconded by Councillor Diamond, be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the August 29th, 2023 council agenda be received as the motion contained therein, except item 5B, 5C, and 5D, and recorded as listed below.
Thank you very much all, and all those in favor of the resolution as amended? Being no objection, carried. We have no delegations and we'll move into new business. Item number 7A. We have a resolution. Madam Clerk.
Just 1 second. Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. I'll need a mover and a seconder.
Mover and a seconder, we got Councillor Neal and Councillor Ron.
It was moved by Councillor Neal and seconded by Councillor Rondo that council received report DIS 2023-001 as information, and that council impose a new speed reduction to 40 kilometers per hour and establish a new speed zone from the intersection of Vinny Ridge Road at 4th Avenue, Highway 101 East, to the eastern border of the Public Works Shop Yard. And that council approved the installations of signs indicating the new speed zone. And that council approve additional signs from 4th Avenue, Highway 101 East, to Highway 11 South along Vinny Ridge. And finally, that council directs staff to bring back the necessary bylaws to reflect said changes.
Yes, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of questions. My first question is who authored this report? I see that says that James authored it, but in it, Chris is talking, CEO is talking third party. So I don't know who wrote the report.
I wrote.
Because it says further down here it talks about that I'm almost confused as to who wrote the report. So
Can you speak to that? I'm assuming probably you received the information passed on to James? No?
No, I think this. Right. I think this might just be an issue that, being my first council reports, I typed them up and they just were in a different format than was used to. So my reports were taken and put into that proper format.
oh,
And
okay,
it's just been a little bit of crossover that happened.
okay, I was confused. I didn't know. However, my question is, what is the cost? And I fully agree with
The change.
No, I fully agree with the residents and the dust and the speed and all that. But the first solution we have here is to spend money to move signs, different signs. And if that doesn't work, our next resolution would be to involve the OPP. Whether you're traveling on that road, whether you're CF 40 or 50, you're still doing whatever speed you want. And we're all guilty of it. And I'm just curious, if we put a 40 sign and we move it 10 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet, is that really going to make a difference? I'm wondering if we should move to enforcement phase first off, have the police do whatever you had suggested, you're more monitoring. And if that doesn't work, then we can reduce it. However, that we've also been indicating in this report that we know who some of the people who are exceeding the speed limit are. So if we can talk to them, I don't know. I don't know what the cost is. Does it cost $50 or does it cost $5,000 for signs and labor? But again, when you see a 40-kilometer-hour sign, are you going to do 40? Because right now it's 50 and you don't see it. So move the 50 to where people can see it and see how the reaction is.
James, do you want to speak to the approximate cost, right?
The approximate cost, I'm sorry, that's my oversight. The signs themselves isn't costing, but I can get that for you. Just for clarity, the second step though was a radar. You see them around and they read it and blink real fast.
Mhm.
You know, that has a very good effect on speeding. The idea is to, have people slowing down on this road, have a little more, careful moving, so to speak. I think that going straight to OPP right away is kind of like a heavy hand, so to speak. The 50 km/h sign, if you drive by there, if anybody does, you'll see it as quite obscure if you're taking it right onto that street. Moving that out, now they're going to see the sign. There is no sign coming into Mass. There's nothing there at all. So they're turning off the highway and literally no sign indicating the speed, which should be a 60. But from Highway 11, Vinny to Matheson, nothing telling you the speed. So, and we have some information. I think it's this guy, I think it's that guy. We don't really know, but we've heard. So I think first step, signs indicate the speed, everybody's been told. Second step, a little bit more, which the costs were included on that, it's not higher, and I do not have to do that. And then third step, go ahead. But right now, I think we just say it's a 40, we make sure they can see it. One side of the road, that's nothing, the other side is hidden. And go from there.
Yes, Councilor Neil.
Your worship, the James. I'm just wondering, like, part of the big thing was dust.
Mhm.
Because you mentioned like a tractor pulling bales.
Mhm.
We live in an agricultural community, that's gonna happen. So I'm just wondering if calcium is an answer. Because that seems to be one of the biggest complaints, the low, like noise, it's gonna be pretty hard. Even when trucks come into the town with the Jake brakes and stuff, we don't have a no Jake brake sign, I don't believe outside of town.
I don't think we have a Jake Creek bylaw with anywhere.
Yeah, so when I look at noise, I think noise is gonna be almost a bit of part of life. The speed though, again, I just wonder for dust, because dust seems to be the big thing, they can't leave their windows open. I just want calcium is maybe another way just to help people deal with what they're dealing with.
And calcium is definitely effective, we put it on the roads. It's very expensive. It's the scheduling and the scheduling and very to get going. It's everybody's happening for it. There's always. It's a little late in the year, we're kind of wasting money. But absolutely, that is a great answer to us. The residents where they live, there's still some ash on there, to address the dust issue for them, that's why we've moved that speed zone all the way back to where Public Works is.
Yeah.
And so they're coming in at 80 and 90, doing that big dust cloud is coming in, we're slowing them down sooner and keeping the dust out.
And I should actually know the answer to this myself, but is that whole Vinny Ridge Road? Is it actually a 60 km zone or is it a, because I know I've had complaints before about large trucks on that.
Best I can tell it is. The reason I believe it to be 60 is if you're heading out from Matheson, just past Campsons, there's a sign that increases from the 50 to the 60. And then no more poles, like no more signposts till you get to Highway 11. There are signposts at Highway 11, but seem to be missing the signs. So with that as my indicator, I assume it's a 60 and no, it's a 60.
So everybody said, yes, Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm still stuck on moving, getting the signs and putting in right away. Because we haven't tried a lower cost. Like we could call the UPP, could we not say, do some monitoring of this road, pay attention? We could move the sign so that it's clear. Because we haven't tried that yet. We're just saying, no one sees the sign there, so let's put a new sign. Why don't we take that sign and put it where people can see it? Because tomorrow we could get a call from the people on North Road and say, I want a 40 zone. And then we get a call from Waterbury Road, say, I want a 40 zone. And then your cost of whatever is going to be multiplied by 60, 70, 100 roads. So we have to watch and set a precedent here. I agree, and I feel sorry for the residents that have that issue. The dust issue, well, that's up to Public Works to fix. The street sweeping, that's up to Public Works to fix, but at this point, we could create a large cost coming forward. And then Raymore and Bogdan and Hope are all their roads that I want 40 zone.
Thank you, Councilor Brown. I think council has heard that and now, and I believe you've made your point, where we do have a resolution declared. Or did we not?
Yes,
That's the seconder, and you already read that?
I did, Mr.
It
Mayor.
happened so long ago, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So I think at this point, I'll just call for a vote on the present resolution, and if it doesn't pass, then we can review. All those in favor of the resolution as written? All against? Defeated. we let Mr. McKenzie know that council has not approved that change at this moment. Is that correct?
Yeah, the correspondence will go out.
And then we'll come back to another meeting with another possible solution or some other suggestion.
If that's the case, I think we need a motion of direction.
Yes, Councilman.
I like the motion direction, because I think that ultimately, maybe with cost. If I actually have a cost for what's being proposed, then we can make that decision. Because it sounds like cost is an issue that is being raised, so again, if we have an idea of what the costs are gonna be. I think we can make a better decision, so that would be a motion, that costs be included in each of the. Offers that were being presented with.
The actual cost of installing sign.
Cost for sign, yeah, so whatever way we're looking at going, the options that are given, what the actual cost would be. That's possible.
Is that satisfactory, presenter?
Yes, I'm just drafting the motion now, so.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Barron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the meantime, can we direct public works to move the sign? If it's not in a good position now, it can be moved. It's not doing its purpose. In the meantime, let's move it. And the report will arrive with costs, and we'll see if there's a difference in the next 2 weeks or month.
Will be even in addition to that motion that you drafted or a separate resolution.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I can add it to it.
that's good. Thank you. And while we're waiting, just my comment was, as I did have complaints about the speed on that road earlier, not necessarily particular limits, but more of the big trucks. You know, the speed and doesn't matter how many times you grade, with the high speed with heavy loads, first thing you know is you got your wash for it again and again and again.
One of roads like that.
Well, yeah, I know. And I mean, the thing is, most of it, a lot of it is speed, even in the rural areas where I live. A lot of it is speed. It doesn't have to be heavy loads, it's just speed. And yes, Matt,
Mr. Mayor, I have a mover, I just need a seconder.
need a second, Council Banner,
Can I read the motion?
please.
Moved by Councillor Neal and seconded by Councillor Diamond, that council direct the Director of Infrastructure to bring back a subsequent report to DIS 2023-001, which includes costs to each option. And that council direct staff to relocate the speed sign on Vinny Ridge Road eastbound effective immediately.
Yeah, we're ready. We've all heard the resolution. I'll ask for vote. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Item B is. Guess we must have another resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
And as usual, I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Rondo and Councilor Neal.
It was moved by Councillor Rondo and seconded by Councillor Neal, that council received the Household Hazardous Waste Event Report EA-OT 2023-005 as information. And that council approve of implementing the 2023 Household Hazardous Waste Event for residents. And finally, that council approve of funding the proposed amount at $8,379.97.
Yes, Councilor Banner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question, I guess, goes to Hanji. Or the clerk treasurer, but is our population is growing? I was confused by that statement. Is the population of Madison growing?
I guess I was unclear in the report. I didn't mean population was growing. I meant that the event would be larger than last year. I
Okay.
anticipate a higher turnout.
Okay,
Yes, Councilor Patton, subsequent.
yeah, subsequent question then is. This is a one-day event. Is there not an opportunity for us to have this set up at our local dump on a full-time basis? Because right now, or last year, at 50 people at $6,000, it was $110, $112 per resident. But if it's set up where people can go the other 364 days, the cost per resident might go down because it's there, it's manned by a landfill attendant. And we're just wondering why we can't have that set up And KRT go over once a month or once 6 months to pick up the product.
I'm assuming you're asking a question to the director of infrastructure.
Or Hanji,
So through the mayor, yes, KRT, very specialized service, you need proper certificates, training, specialization for the handling material. There's a reason why we don't accept that dump, and even cities like Finland, they only do one a year.
okay,
We just can't handle or even store this material, without the proper derivative installation. So they're licensed, they have regulation and insurance, they take on all of this.
Satisfy your questions, Councilor?
Mhm.
Thank you. I just have one quick question. I'm assuming we allowed in our budget for this work? It's just,
No, Mr. Mayor,
we didn't,
it's not in the budget.
so how are we covering the cost?
The cost will run through the expenses. If we happen to have a surplus within that department, we'll capture it. Otherwise, it'll be taken out through your reserves.
Just so council's aware, I want to make sure everybody is aware there's a cost of this. And I'm not saying it's a bad cost, I'm just saying it's a cost. You read the resolution?
I did.
You did, so everybody understands the resolution, all those in favor, Councilor, one last question.
my question is, why did we not put it in the budget? But where would this be under?
Yes, yes.
It'll be under the landfill department. I didn't know to put in the budget. I didn't. I didn't capture it.
So, but it'll still get covered and it's something we've been doing then,
Mhm.
right? So it has to get done, so. Anyway, the resolution's been heard and read, and all those in favor of the resolution. Seeing no objections, carried. So we move to item C. And we move a resolution, move her to seconder one more time. Councilor Neil, Councilor Rondo.
It was moved by Councillor Neil and seconded by Councillor Rondo that council received memo CAOM 2023-01 as information. And that council adopt the revised 2022 non-union salary grid. And finally, that council directs staff to bring back CP 181602 staff pay management policy in the form of a bylaw to readopt with the adjusted non-union salary grid.
Yes, Councilor Neil.
Yes, your worship. Is this, motions put before us, is this only regarding landfill, the lead landfill attendant? Is it only going to do with that person individual, or is that all staff across the board?
Yes, Councilor.
Into the CAO.
Yeah, no, it's not. So just in the discussion portion of the memo there. So I think it was actually council that saw that there was some discrepancies in what's what they're showing to me, some exactly error is mine. And so when I calculated the 2023 non-union salary grid, I found out that the ending salary grid for 2022 was incorrect. So I went back and recalculated, there are no compensation issues with any incumbents. And I just put a couple of notes there, just so council's aware. So the lead landfill attendant shows as being red circle. That's not a change from the final pay. It was always red circle. So in note 2, those highlighted in blue, the original rate applied was the 2021 ending rate. And the 2022 job rate is as a result of the final 1% increase to all the union staff on top of the 2021 rate. That was the council approved that increase. Those items highlighted in green. Step 5 is correct for all the positions, but the originally adopted grid used an incorrect percentage that was applied by our consultant for each step below step 5. So I corrected those percentages again because they shared the 4% between each. But that again, that does not affect the individual job rate report. And then the one in orange, those positions were not added to the original grid. And they did not exist until after the 202 budget was passed because they were part of that budget. So I've simply added them to that and bring it up next year. So again, there's no effect to the budget. There's no effect on anybody's compensation. It's just making sure that we have the correct.
Just the correct numbers.
And again, I apologize for the error.
Just a follow-up question. So when it says council direct staff to bring back CP 1602 staff to be management, was that something that wasn't a part of any? Except for bringing it back, it wasn't a part of the original. We already talked about.
Yeah, so the was
It's a bylaw.
appendix A that I've attached. Yes, that was an appendix attached to that policy. And that kicks everything, right? So it's incorrect, and so we simply asked the new grid. The 202 appendix B to make that correction.
So, sorry, so A is incorrect, but B is correct.
That's correct, yes. A is incorrect, but it was the one that was adopted with the policy, which is why we bring it up.
Good. Yes, Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to the CL, so is only step 5 is.
Step 5 is correct.
Step 5 has not changed between appendix A and appendix,
It should be, that's correct, yeah. That is,
but what changes is step 4, 3, 2, 1
yes,
and the 2022 job rate.
that's.
The job rate changed.
Yeah, that's correct. Job rate did change from 2022 because the 1% was not applied on the original rate.
So it was reflected on people's pays, but it's not reflected on the grid.
That's correct, yeah, absolutely. There's no compensation increase or decrease.
Okay, so is this just a housekeeping item?
It is, it's. But again, I apologize for the confusion, but I can understand why folks are confused.
Since you were.
No, I recognize it right away.
Yeah. And no further questions on that? All those in favor of the resolution? Seeing no objections, carried. Next item is item D. And we got a mover and a seconder going in first, or did you want to speak to it first?
Well, I didn't want to speak to it. I wanted to remind council that they have a subsequent report, so you may want to give them time to read it, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, did you want to?
You may want to read it as well, Mr. Mayor, it was provided to you.
Oh, okay, that's probably the latest report on.
Yes.
We can take 2 minutes and everybody has a chance to read it.
May have to excuse myself from this one.
Okay,
My brother, Sal, out here. This is a salesperson acting in this area.
Lieutenant?
He does northern, like, northern part, so I should excuse myself in this discussion.
Councillor Neil, how about when you're excused, could you fill out the conflict of interest form? Sure. Okay.
Thank you very much for that. I'm reading this correctly, if they fall into the middle between those lines. I'm great, ready.
So, Councilor Neil, what we're gonna do before we table the motion, if you could just state out loud that you have a conflict on that agenda item and then read your form,
Okay,
okay?
so I do have a declaration of conflict of interest. So this regular council meeting dated August 29, 2023, I, Council Keith Neal, declare a direct pecuniary interest on agenda item number 7B, entitled Greater Procurement, for the following reason: brother sales agent for this product. Find my name and then printed it this.
And thank you for your honesty, Councilman.
I'm not just gonna say it.
Yes, we'll call you up for the discussion, but
All right. I'll read it and take.
Hey, you're still entitled to have the information. Modifying the resolution.
No.
No.
Director, there are modifications to the regulations.
Okay. You just, the information was at the time, okay. Okay, clarification, I was getting confused, sorry. We have more in second.
So the motion has been tabled yet.
Okay.
You're giving your councilman some time to
Okay.
read it.
That's right. I thought we have to check. How does that affect the land right now? The form is based on content that comes to the end. Correct.
It doesn't. It's the conflict of interest.
No, just saying, but since like the regional council meeting does one.
Yes,
And we're down in Florida, so the rate.
you're right. After one.
Is that still a form?
That's a form.
Even though we're down to the 6 on the board?
That's right.
Okay, I just wanted, I thought maybe it's,
Quorum of the members,
okay,
the 12 members.
okay. Including the one, including the one that's out of quorum.
Yes.
So the seats, okay,
7 seats. Quorum is all right.
okay,
Because of the rain, the internet's not stable.
Still four folks,
okay.
so, and just further to that, of course, it would take 3 of you, not staying in front of them. It's not one to carry them.
Yeah.
So it's keep them.
Okay. Making sure. Is everyone finished reading it or? So, and I got to move on a second or for the resolution, Councilor Rondo and Councilor Guy.
It was moved by Councilor Rondo, seconded by Councilor Gattery. That council received report DIS 2023-001 as information. And that council approves the acquisition of a 2024 Komatsu GD 655-7 motor grader. Right on board to Matheson as outlined in report DIS 2023-001 for purchase price of $491,111 excluding HST.
Any questions regarding the resolution? Yeah. Yes, Council Brandon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In our original,
That's just Councilor Schmidt.
in our original budget, we had 3 pieces of equipment, I think, in the original budget. That was 1.8 million.
Yes,
So this was one of the 3
yes,
pieces. So the 1.8 million was excluding HST or,
that's the budget does not include HST.
okay, so 1.8 less 491,000. That leaves us 1.3 million for 2 more pieces of equipment. Are we gonna make it? Because it's kind of hard to approve something when you don't know what the other 2 items are gonna be.
At this point, it doesn't look. The availability is, so it's for plow trucks, the availability of these trucks is impossible right now. Which for this option, probably not gonna go out there. You're getting out there on the grand of something that's for sale. Like the market demand was high and the supply is low. So likely. Not in the near future, we're still working on it.
So in other words, what you're saying, we're likely not going to be purchasing some of this equipment this year.
Like to, but like.
Okay.
Not available.
So it means that we won't exceed our budgetary considerations. We just may have a problem with equipment. We may have to keep patching old crap. If I'm hearing what I'm hearing correctly.
Eventually, we're gonna exceed it.
Yes,
When we buy all 3 pieces of
yes,
equipment, we will
but it may
exceed,
not happen in this
we will
budget,
exceed our budget.
but it may not happen this year. That's all I was saying.
It won't exceed this year, but it might.
No, but next year, we'll have to go back to the residents, to ask for more money.
Well, it'll be money that we won't spend this year.
You're gonna take, excuse me, you're gonna take the money that's left over this year.
Yeah.
You're gonna put it into reserves, and next year it's gonna come back. You can transfer that money out of reserves. And you probably, James can tell you, but I'm sure the price is going to increase by the time.
Everything always goes up. Usually. Yes.
And if I could just add that even if we had a deal, we had a quote. Most of the lead times have to be back around 18 months. So the actual purchase.
Yeah, no, I get that, I'm just. If you were the corner store and you only got $20, you're trying to pay $25 worth of candy, 10 of it this year and 15 next year, you're still short money. Right? So that's my point, timeline. We understand timeline now, like, to buy anything is delayed, but. I'm just saying that we're approving one portion of a huge portion. And we think it's a great price, but how do we know that? Right, we had original budget of $1.8 million, which was how much for grader and how much for 2 plow trucks. What do we estimate was the grader, I guess,
500,000.
so we're
We're under
within,
budget.
so within that.
Within budget. So really your question is answered that we are within budget. Whatever happens with the trucks, that's another question we don't know. But we're gonna be successful with our greater purchase, at least to be within budget.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm using to interrupt, but Councilor Schmidt is with us. He just may want to update us to where you are.
Councilor Smith, are you aware of all? Yes, Councilor Smith.
Thank you so much. I apologize for my tardiness tonight.
It's all good. We're just going through the process of a resolution to purchase our new grader that we approved in our budget cycle.
Okay,
And James, our Director of Infrastructure, was just updating council on having received a third bid, which actually affect his original report of purchasing the particular item that he's recommended to council, so that hasn't changed. And there's been questions as far as whether we're fitting the piece of equipment into the approximate budget cost of that piece of equipment. And there's just been a long discussion regarding the fact that some equipment may not even be available to purchase this year and how that may or may not affect budgets going forward. So that's just to bring you up to speed since you just missed this particular item and I wanted you to be available to vote on this resolution. Do you have any questions on that?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. As of right now, no.
Okay. We've read the resolution.
Yes, Mr. Councilor
Guys,
Diamond.
that?
I'll take up Keith's question because you're not here. What, I know, or I remember there was an issue years ago in our last grader, our last So one of our pieces of equipment that kept breaking down. Was that a warranty issue? Like, is this the same brand? Are we going down the same path? We're gonna have to fix it and not get help? What? Like, are we comfortable in this decision, knowing that if it breaks in 16 weeks from now?
We've got support.
We've got support. I'm very comfortable with them. Their response to me, I actually spoke right with the manager. We spoke about what their service staff was like, the parts availability was like. Their replies was thorough, they were quick. They're interested in being partners with us. I can't say the same about all other vendors, so I have good confidence in them as a company, and I have good confidence in the brand. A lot of the money companies that we're taking up the bat to now, and that's preference over others. So I feel good about that. As far as the former grader, I'm not sure before my time, I do know that although that is now out of service, it had issues like what you're talking about. So that one, and it was repetitive issues that were never really fixed.
All right, yes, Pam, yes, Pam.
So I did bring some numbers to council if you were interested on the Volvo grader that this is going to replace. The Volvo grader was purchased in 2013. The price was $233,795. It's reached its net book value in 2022. We started tracking costs on that grader only in 2014, but from 2014 to 2022, it's cost you $254,126 in maintenance. So it even exceeded your original purchase price.
So what do we are buying one of those? Yes, Councilor, one last question. And we'll move on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm gonna question them. I guess I know it's beating water that's under the bridge, but if we spent 100% of what we purchased a grader for 9 and 10 years ago, what guarantee are we gonna not to spend $200 and some dollars of maintenance on this particular one? And why, if you buy something, do we not have a warranty that would cover that? I'm just concerned that we're gonna buy this and we're gonna have warranty, and have warranty, that's on the warranty, and we're gonna spend.
Thanks for the question. We'll let the director James to answer your question.
So there is warranty for the equipment. There are other options for the warranty that's pretty much in their operations, so it wasn't in the East Coast. As far as putting that much money in and having the percent cost, as you said, another component to some of the things I'm doing that haven't been done in the past are preventative maintenance, tracking hours, tracking fuel consumption, that kind of stuff, and looking at when we hit our operational efficiency. So the point at which we're getting as much out of the graders we're putting in, when that inverts and we start getting less out than we're putting in, then that's when we're putting in our replacements in the future. And moving forward, have a rolling strategy like that. And this is also something to come to council in the future, which is to kind of speak to it now a little bit. So for graders, and I mentioned in the report, but it's about 7 years. So we're not going to find ourselves 15 years into grader, but we're just dropping money into the fold. We're going to take that when we get our peak done back out. When we cross that operational point where we're not getting it anymore, replace that with a new one, but also recover a lot of money from that asset. We'll sell it when it's yeah, right. So moving forward with that, and you'll hear more about that in the future, but that's sort of, I think, the guarantee you're looking for is that we're going to have a plan in place to manage our equipment better.
All right, thank you, James. That was very good. I appreciate that. And if there's no further questions, I'm going to call for a vote. Is Alana still on there too?
I think we lost it.
We lost her again. She's still.
Oh. I'm here.
Okay, we just can't see it. That's okay, Alana.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
It would be best practice for her to turn the video camera on. If she's uncomfortable doing that, you're gonna have to get her to voice how she wants to vote.
Can you turn your camera on, Alana, or is it just not working?
No, it's fine. I can turn that back on.
Okay, well then I'm just gonna have to get you to vocally yay or nay on the vote. Oh, there, you're back on there now. Okay, we can see you right now. So I'm gonna call for a vote on the
Yeah.
resolution. All those in favor of the resolution as presented? Lana? Okay, all those in favor, thank you, and seeing no objections, carried.
Councillor Diamond, do you mind just letting Councillor?
Oh.
I think Councilor Neal's not here.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Almost forgot about rain here. Don't tell Councilor Neal. about it. Forget about it.
yeah, I forgot you're gone.
Councilor Rondo, you probably took that.
Okay, done it right for you.
Bring the meeting back into order once Councilor Neal and everybody's made it back in. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Councilor Neal. And we'll move along to the agenda to item E. And it's regarding the request for proposal results for the demolition of the Raymore Fire Hall. And I know there's a report to council on that, and there's a resolution. And I need to move her to seconder again on the resolution. And you move her to seconder on the resolution for the demolition of the Raymore Fire Hall. Councilor Neal and Councilor Gaddy.
It was moved by Councillor Neal and seconded by Councillor Gadry that council received this report as information and that council approved the demolition costs of $235,567, excluding HST, to Arkwood Industries for the demolition of the Raymore Fire Hall. And finally, that the extra funds be removed from reserves.
Any questions regarding the resolution? Yes, Councilor Van.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is Arkwood local? And
They're
therefore,
from
so when we advertise for the RFP, is it local?
It,
It was, go ahead, James. Yeah, you use me.
we did the enterprise locally, we did our Facebook, we did the social media in general, and also the communities. The specificity of what needs to be done, the training we need to deal with stuff in the basement of the lead paint, whatnot. We wanted to have a broad range of advertising, so we would get as many bids as possible, and we overcome it.
Which concerns me. Yes, Councilor Van.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering if we could re-advertise this on a provincial basis, because that's $250,000 that we don't have. Take down a building that's been in poor shape for how many years? And I don't want to decide, and then since last Thursday, when we got the report to now, to spend that money, it's, I understand kids win it and it's not gonna fall down, mind you, but a lot of money to make a decision over the last 4 days when we've been standing for 10 years empty. If it was advertised provincially, I'm sure there's gotta be more than one person that can come up with a price. That's a lot of money to spend.
Before I comment at all, I'm just going to allow every other councillor if they have any comments. But if there are no other comments, my only comment and my only concern, Councillor Diamond, it doesn't really echo your exact concern. My concern is that we only have one estimate, so we have nothing to compare it to, and that's bothering me. And I don't want to reinvent the wheel, and I don't want this to go in a big circle, and I don't want to wait for 2 more years to demolish the building. But I would like to see us find a way to at least draw in some other bits. Now, whether that's possible, I don't know. Councilor.
Like Councilor Diamond, is there a possible way to re-advertise that? I saw it on social media and I saw it right away. Because I mean, like you said, Mr. Mayor, like, we only have the one bid. There's gotta be somebody local. It's gotta be like, I don't know how many contractors out there, even the ones who do side jobs that can't tear it down.
Yes, James, just before you speak, Councilor Gadry had a question.
Yeah, I was also concerned about the price.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot. Although, like you say, there's nothing to compare it to, so,
And that's my concern.
yeah, I think we should look for more bids, just to have a comparison.
I just like the director of infrastructure to comment, but
Thank you. So a few things, I see the single bid coming in as just the fact that nobody wants to touch it, to be honest. I understand what you're saying with there's nothing to compare to angle, but it's quite the job. As far as going provincially, it's absolutely something we can do. That's council directs us to do that. We can. The issue I see with that is, it's always been a part of this proposal. That the contractor make a site visit to really know what they're getting into. There's a substance survey that goes along with it. There's disposal concerns, because this stuff can't just go to a dump. So if we're inviting provincial, and we can, but, the number, I don't think is going to come down. They're going to have additional costs to come and do that. Speaking to it's not going to fall down. I'll take anybody who wants to go on a visit there. The stairwell is this, so the one side of the building closest to the radio tower. It's coming, and it may have been standing for 10 years, but that just means we're 10 years closer than we were then to a falling down. So if you got 11 years out of that, you gotta go. We can't use that to bank on another 10 years, so it's gonna be standing. Final point being that it is expensive. I don't contest that at all. It's a lot of money. It will be more money.
Is there a way that we could realistically, and I don't want to interfere with the process either, but is there any way that we realistically could retender this for a short period of time to see if there's any possibility that somebody missed this? And could we like, without having to reinvent the wheel and develop a whole new RFP and change the whole scope of everything else? And I realize I could even risk losing one bid we have. But I'm a little concerned with the cost side, and I'd really like something to compare to. Is there any way we can do that simply, James, or is it just become a real?
Well, our procurement bylaw requires 10 days, 10 business days. So you're gonna be 2 weeks there. It can be. We have in the conditions of the proposal the right to nominate. And to change terms, to change scopes, and to go back up for more than that's what the conditions. So we can absolutely do it.
So it is a possibility. Yes, Councilor Neil?
Yeah, this one, the money's coming out. What do we have left in reserves? There's 235, 567 that's coming out. What action does that leave us?
I believe we budgeted, if I'm not, I'll let Cassandra answer fully, but if I'm not mistaken, we budgeted $71,000, correct?
But
Yes, Kat.
yeah, you budgeted 71,000, so the difference is gonna come out of reserve. But Councilor Neil, to answer your question directly, you wouldn't be taking it out of the fire department reserve, you wouldn't be taking out the public work reserve, it'd be the working capital reserve. What you have left in there was 1.2 million, I believe.
Yes, Councilman.
So, but as part of that working capital being used as well, we're saying this is that money from like the natural gas. But again, that we're using it
From the gas tax?
yeah. Does that come out of that 1.2 million?
Yes, Kat.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Councilor Neil, can you repeat?
So again, when you said that, it's 1.2 million in that one reserve account
Yes,
that we would take. Is that part of the money that comes from the natural gas line that we've been putting aside?
yeah, so sorry if I can answer your question, the 1.2 million is after all the budget items have been considered, so it's what you have left. Is that answer the question? Is it different way
It's
to answer?
not specifically gas tax, that's your question.
Yeah.
Councilor. It's our general reserve fund or capital. Reserve fund. Yes, Councilor Robert?
Is there a reason why we're contracting this? Do we not have like public works staff that can carry that in that place? Do we not have the staff to do it ourselves?
I kind of asked the question, but I'd like to defer to James so he can answer the question.
So we have substances in the basement, some of them identified, some of them not, that was done by an engineering survey. So one of the issues is that if we want to deal with, and the contractor has the same issue, but if we want to remove something that we don't have an MSDS sheet for, that we can identify. Well, no, you have to make an application to the minister to say, I've done everything that I can possibly do to identify this. We haven't been able to. And at that point, they can give you permission to move ahead, and you also set whatever training and safety guidelines you need to follow. If you can't identify a chemical, they're going for the top shelf. So we're gonna have guys in Hamilton for a week and a half on training, plus full hazmat suits to go in and take this one. I prefer that. You know.
Yes,
Can
Councilor.
we not just get a contractor just to come and eliminate those products and use our staff to demolish, tear down the hall? Would that not come up even cheaper than the $235,000? If we just hire somebody to come and remove the substitutes and then we use our staff. Our available staff to do the demolition once that stuff has been removed.
We don't have the equipment to do the demolition. We could rent the equipment to do the demolition, but now you're just increasing costs again. We've also put a strain on the daily operations. You know, we're already running pretty slim. We're taking care of what we need to take care of, but to take guys off of that now, you can ask other areas. To supplement those areas.
I don't know, $250,000 to then tear down a building is ridiculous, in my opinion, but. It can be like a couple shots of photos or you clean it up, I mean, things are already falling down, so.
I'd love to be that simple, but I've come to the realization that nothing's that simple anymore. But I do agree that the number seems high,
Yes.
but and the only reason the number seems high to me is because we budgeted a number that was based on some kind of a previous plan. And that number is 1/3 of the actual bid price, and we have no other actual bid to compare it to, even though if anything's right, wrong, or otherwise. Yes, Councilor Kent.
I have two questions. When are we looking to get this document? How soon will it be done?
Yes, Nick.
Right away, if it's approved. It's so they would have theoretically, if this was approved tonight. We have a window called the document submission window where they're going to provide us with the WSIP and the rest of the paperwork, which we then verify. So they would get that up until next Friday, well, this week. And then the Monday after that, they would be good to go, and that extra time during the document submission also gives our staff time to put out notices and notify the public that this will be going on. Just for the record, their first little bit of that direct fence of the area state. So,
Any idea how long this will take?
the window that they have to complete is 2 weeks, like 14 calendar days. They will have some issues, and that's after the document submission. They will have also to find a way to dispose of it, because we can't get that. So, and some of that stuff. I'm not sure there's something so identified. So,
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Diamond.
Mr. Mayor, two comments. I don't want to, I don't agree to 235. But specialized contractors for removing specialized materials, we'll call it, aren't reading the enterprise. They're not sitting in Iroquois Falls and everything. And they're not sitting on Facebook looking for work. And as well, right now, and I'm familiar with it, if someone asks you to shingle the roof right now, price now versus it was in May, a lot higher. Because everybody's busy and everybody's trying to get into the end of the year. So I'm going to suggest that we send this down south.
I'll put it back out a different farm or whatever.
Put it back on different, and if the local, if our local contractors that could do this are upset. It's unfortunate, but we did put the opportunity out there for everybody to quote on it, but we have to spend the money wisely, so we put it back down south. And give them, you have until May of 2024 to have this removed. They could do it over the winter, they could. You know, when you're working inside a machine, it doesn't matter when it's -30 or it's +30. But I think that our costs will come in extra, and if not, then next year. We'll have to deal with, or if we can make a decision by Christmas or January, we could deal with it again, but that's a huge pill to swallow. And I can't.
James, just any comments you want to make? I mean, concerns, issues, agreement?
just for clarification, so we would have our regular bid submission window, and then we would just leave it open for their available. And that's something we can do. It's not an issue. I live in Rainbow, my kids live here. That building standing because I've been in, and again, I invite input you all to come visit it. It really is, and we can put people down and we come in, like it's a problem. I don't like it. I'm not sitting there saying let's throw all this money, but I do really want to stress the point that
We should get it done.
it's really bad.
Is it worthwhile, even, can we, like, I don't want to go through gyrations that don't make any sense. But I agree with everybody on the cost factor and I'm really upset. And I mean, there's only so much you can do about that, but we only have the one bid. And I mean, the odds of us going back out and getting some more, I believe are actually good. But I know normally we would say no, but I believe it's actually there's a possibility we could get some more submissions if we try one more time.
Yeah.
But I don't want this to drag on any longer than possible. I would like to see that building down. If not before snow, before we call it the end of the. It's coming.
I'm just looking for companies that actually do this. We're putting it out as a tender, which again advertised, but is there any companies we can actually call? Because if that's today's point, if they're not checking out and they're busy, they're not really looking for work. If that's something we could actually call a few companies that do this and say, listen, here's what we have, we need someone. Just to get a couple of prices.
Yes, good.
I see. Mercs.
Mhm.
It's a provincial wide system of use for.
If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Goes everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, the people go in there, they have a membership, they have certain keywords that they go in there and they get these tenders all the time. And we have a membership already. That's the best.
Yeah.
And if council, I mean, the cost shocked me. And then, you know, not only that, but on top of this, we've also paid probably $18,000
For environmental.
to the ESS, right, that was required. So that's part of it as well. So,
That they didn't tell us all the information we needed.
well, at the end of the day, they're not gonna go stick them in barrels and test it. There's some unknown stuff there. But I think Merck's will get what they're looking for.
Yes, James?
We just had one other option, that you can consider, within the conditions, among other tenders that come out. You can direct us to go back to Parkwood and negotiate and see where savings can be had and come back to you with a revised price on this, just because we have somebody who is interested, that is an option. Or both.
Yeah, I would vote. Once we get a report, then you can negotiate with them, listen, we can get this guy to do it for. If he wants to keep the tender, even, maybe the price for that, 335.
I think we need to set a limit on how long we're gonna advertise.
Yeah, that can,
I don't know how long would be realistic, a couple of weeks?
Well,
I know it's 10 days is our normal.
But our purchasing policy, particularly stuff that Jim has started,
can we not put it for a month, 30 days?
we could.
So that way there, like, there's more chance of people seeing it.
Yeah, I think if you put it, you're gonna get some update, Marcus. And maybe during that time, to discuss with, the applicants.
We advertise it for 30 days, there's no chance of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's only fair to try and.
And that at least makes us look, at least we tried. You know, I mean, it just doesn't be, and as much as we have no control over it, and we only have one bid, and the bid is so far away from the original estimated cost, even though that estimated cost, I think, was an old estimate, and I don't know how it was based. But this, and James was actually not here when that whole process started. And this gives James the opportunity, some time to actually work on it, deal with it, and make it happen. If that works for everybody, I see our clerk busy writing a new resolution for us. As usual, she's using her brain and listening to our words. Yes,
So-
Fred?
Just one further thing, I think. We might want to have a little, I haven't been down there in a while, but we might want to go trip there to be sure all the access to the building is tightened up, so
Those stuff, some other
kids
things.
can come in there, having some fun and stuff, because they aren't as cheap.
And to be honest, throughout the whole township, we have a huge amount of abandoned buildings, and we have the same problem with kids. I know I did it when I was a teenager. We did it, we found a way to.
I know GP, tell me about it.
Well, I'm essential.
Anyway, did we originally have a resolution on that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, so there is a resolution on
We have
the
to vote on it.
vote on it, and I have now drafted another.
Yeah, the original resolution that the original, yes, Alana? Alana, were you saying something?
Yeah, I have two questions. I think Chris, maybe it was mumbled what you just said, but did you suggest putting something around the building to prevent kids from going too close to the building, that would be a good idea for the fire hall, just to, as a precautionary. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, what?
Okay, awesome.
What I suggested is that the director have another look at it to make sure we've got all the access points covered so that we don't have, so that we eliminate some risk there or at least mitigate it. Make sure that the building is.
For sure.
Not
And then,
necessarily with a
okay.
fence.
Okay, yeah, not if that, even like, you know, the caution tape, just as an added measure to keep people away. But in addition, I'm just curious, is that high quote because there's toxic materials in there, things that are a health or safety concern? Is that a potentially, like, is that one of the reasons why that quote is so high potentially?
You want to speak to that, James?
It could be, I can't speak to how he came up with his numbers specifically, the bid submission didn't break it down to that level of detail. I can say that there are chemicals in the basement, and some are identified, some are as simple as just fire suppressant foam. We know what that is, we have an MSTS sheet, and some of it, not so much. The other major designated substance that was identified in the report was lead in the paint and the water. So, but no asbestos was listed in the report, so that was a small lesson.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Alana, for your questions. So we'll move ahead and we'll vote on that initial resolution that we didn't want to really agree with, so we can at least deal with that resolution. We'll let you read that one more time just to bring it back up to speed, so everybody's voting on something they remember, please.
Moved by Councillor Neil and seconded by Councillor Gattery. That council received this report as information, and that council approved the demolition costs of $235,567, excluding HST, to Arkwood Industries for the demolition of the Raymore Fire Hall, and finally that the extra funds be removed from reserves.
So as the resolution been read, I will actually call for a vote. All those in favor? All those against? Motion defeated. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to our next resolution. I need to move on to secondary again. Councillor Gattery and Councillor Rondo.
Moved by Councillor Gattery and seconded by Councillor Rondo. That council direct the Director of Infrastructure to speak with Arkwood Industries, to negotiate a different price as presented. And that council direct the Director of Infrastructure to also re-advertise the RFP for further submissions. And finally, that the Director of Infrastructure bring back a report once further options are available.
I think that's pretty concise. I think it covers all the options. I'll call for a vote on the resolution. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. Thank you very much. The next item is, I guess we're going to move into. The next item is the CEO. That's the CEO July monthly report. We move in a seconder again. Sorry, Cass.
No, it's okay.
Move in a seconder. I got Councillor Neil and Councillor Rondo.
Moved by Councillor Neil, seconded by Councillor Rondo. That council received the CAO July monthly report CAO-2023-11 as information.
Questions regarding the report to the CEO? Yes, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have quite a few questions, all on different portions of the report. First question I have is under Human Resources, Municipal Compliance Officer.
Yeah.
We are pleased that he has some knowledge of the building code and soon after his employment will begin his quest to become a chief building official. So at this point, we're still employing Timmins as a contractor.
Yeah, we still have Timmins.
So is the municipal compliance officer, his wage was to be both? Have we adjusted his wage to reflect only the compliance officer, or are we paying him the top wage and still contracting?
No, he came in at step 2 of the thing. We of 5.
Okay.
And the reason I did that is because he has significant knowledge with respect to bylaw enforcement. He's a supervisor in the city of Timmins. Does have some building, knowledge, as I indicated.
He's just not certified.
He's not certified. He has written a couple of the initials. And he's anxious to get home. So. As far as I'm concerned, there's no reason why we couldn't, that, I mean, in order to do what you're asking, we have to go back. Remove all the stuff out of that position and have the municipal compliance position then stored again. And it may or may not come down soon. I can't really tell. Pardon me, our consultant.
So basically what you're saying, you placed him in a position where you feel he fits.
Yeah, and, because of his bad knowledge of bylaw. And so if he's successful in going through the CEO, which I think he will lead, then he will advance up the scale.
So
So
this is initial, basically an entry level, just one step above entry level.
that's correct.
Yes, Councilor Bennett.
So if I go to appendix B, I can find when it's changed.
Yeah.
Which is just enlightening me with some numbers, just I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know, I'm just
I would say he's probably.
90% of the budget that we had allowed.
No, it wouldn't be that much. No, it would not be that much. It would be, because I think the budget, Sandra, if you can refresh me, but I think the budget was much higher than that, Dave, or it comes to plan.
Pardon me?
I think the budget was much higher than allowed for it.
Step two, you said?
Yeah,
84,000.
Yeah. So I think the budget was much higher. Anticipating that we pick up some of the. So the bid is.
So when he becomes both, what is the salary?
Well, he's starting, can't tell you what 3.5 are.
Yeah, 3 is 88. 4 is 92.
So it's 4%. Each step.
For the staff,
4%.
you're starting at 80.
What did we budget for?
I thought we budgeted 90 something, but I can't remember the exact number.
I can get it.
No, I'm just saying, we're paying, right now, we're paying 124,000
No, 84.
plus the 40 for the building official,
Which?
building official.
Oh, until he's fully qualified.
Right.
But the plan was too, is don't forget that now that we're gonna have a bylaw officer, we're not only gonna be dealing with our bylaw issues, we're actually gonna bring in revenue to offset some.
Once we shed the.
Yeah.
Well, then we'll be getting into all the revenue things.
Mhm.
And if you go way back to. Budget, I think the report was like scheduled that we showed how. Once the compliance officer was fully trained. And we took revenues from the applications and whatnot, that there was actually a savings there and getting better service.
Mhm.
In the bottom.
So what's our target date for this? Because you have to agree, we are overpaying. If we budget 9, we're paying 124, we're overpaying. So if this gentleman does not become a chief building official for a year,
Yeah,
people are gonna have an issue.
I don't know why they would, because
We're moving forward.
we're moving forward. I mean, there's no other way to do this unless you found somebody.
I know, I'm just saying, what's the target date though?
So I'm gonna say a year is probably realistic. My experience with it, taking a needle fight right to the end, to like get past everything. So, but remember, that's like large buildings and stuff as well, and building code, right? So most of our stuff is smaller buildings, right? So he doesn't really need to get right to that full blown CEO for the larger building. It's nice for him to have it.
He doesn't need a residential one.
No, oh no, there's a much lower standard for resident. So,
We need to go with that.
yeah,
Okay? Oh,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And so, Council Diane, if we've gone into that situation, what I would suggest, and we had him trained listed to a residential type of thing, then I would reach out to Timmins again for help on larger government for me.
Okay.
So I know it's a bit of a chicken and eggs and with this, right? So, but I'm very confident at the end of the day, we're gonna see some benefits from this.
All right. We got another question on the report.
It's been a while since we've ever.
Does anybody else have any questions before Councilor Diamond continues? If not, then go ahead, Councilor Diamond.
The next paragraph, I think we would all agree we're getting tired of discussing this. But, has the pay been remanded? Now where everybody can calm down regarding the director of, was it Public Works, yeah? The DPW? Yeah, no, before, Director of Public Works?
Yeah.
Has that been adjusted now so that everybody can calm down?
It was just on day one.
Okay, so everybody can sleep easy?
Let's cross the fingers, hopefully, yes.
Okay, okay, just had to ask the question. You want me to continue or do you want me to keep coming back to your more
Well,
questions?
how many questions do you have, Councilor Diamond? I just did not, I'm not gonna cut you off, I'm just asking.
About 5? 21 page,
I know, and as long as they're questions that need to be answered, you have the right to that, you can ask the question.
let's skip down to, broadband, the library. First person to find it would be great.
It's on page 14.
Mhm.
Right at the top.
Page 14 broadband. This seems to not have changed this whole discussion. It seems to have changed, but is this not something that we can give to library to take care of? Like, I'm wondering why, if the library applied for this broadband, why we're taking into our staff to create more work for you guys, leave it to the people that have more time.
Yeah, the library and Council Diamond reached out to us and asked for help, and I don't think this is. The issue with the two branches is very frustrating. If you read if you may have read the document or the brief that we went to talk to the Ministry of Infrastructure, the longer at the moment, we did talk to them about it. It's not their ministry, but the parliamentary assistant of the social minister, he promised to go and talk to them because he doesn't understand that. It's very unfair. We are not the only community where this is an issue. And I think that's what we're proud of to. Because like that, the amount that they want to charge is absolutely, it's crazy. Geez, you know, you're talking like 2.5 or 3 points on that just because of the work value. No thanks, but at the same time, it's the right in the library to have this. So this is what happens when you go into the library.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to get the work, get the people in place to do the work that they applied for, right?
Yeah.
If the rec committee applies for funding, then the rec committee should deal with it.
No,
But if the library applies for funding, then I feel that they should deal with it. And, you know, we all the same, right? The public works, they shouldn't become you to say, can you take care of it? I think if each department should take care of their own work.
yeah, and so I do talk to library quite regularly about this to try and get some updates, but she's rushing regularly because she's done more with like the next one. I said, well, let me see what I can do, and I made a little bit of headway. Yes, we did. I actually know the individual that has been contracted to provide these solar connections. There was 103 libraries across Ontario, but they were one in a bid. And so when they couldn't install all this stuff, that was going well over $4,000 per connection, which is unrealistic. For any, I don't care where it works, unrealistic. And so we're going to still continue to go down that road. We will send, because the solar is proud by this stuff is all sort of the same technology. We will be sending a follow-up letter to the minister that we met with. So the broadband aspect in small rural town, Ontario, is moving very slowly. So I mean, I'm sure you've experienced, for example, simply bad cell phone areas. In Toronto, you don't get that you've been 5G, and pretty soon faster than 5G. And we deserve the same.
On Highway 11, you got spots you don't have entered the
Hey,
place.
it's not time to talk.
So good news in all of this, is that I did have a meeting with Phil, and they have said that they will have fiber to the home in all their little hamlets here by 2025, which is targeted by the province. And then on
Whether it's a part of the next question.
well, that's the whole issue. So we'll see. I think it probably will be a flip. You know, on the heels of that is coming the provincial satellite program. North Star, it's called. And so that's similar to Starlink. Right? And that's the game changer right there. Because I can tell you, I have Starlink, and if anybody who has it, don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
It's
it's
crazy.
Yeah.
So, it's, we can't not keep our, take our eye on. So I know some of the information, Councilor Diamond, is very similar or identical, but I just think council understand that we need to keep our eye on. Right? I'll try not to change up some of the words to move to different.
Yeah, having said that, if nothing changes from month to month, I don't particularly want to see it. I mean, like, it's, if it's the same thing, but nothing changes in that paragraph other than one item, get rid of the other
Yeah.
14 items, and just give it the one item instead.
I can respect it as, I mean, my report is quite lengthy,
Yeah,
and thank you very much. I
hence the reason I have questions. On to my next question, page 16, cost savings, revenue generation. It says historical cost savings, 2021, 126. 64 in 2022, 77, and 33 in 2024.
Yeah.
Maybe next report, can we write what those cost savings are, like how we achieve them, but also the
Sure.
revenues?
Yeah.
What is the $84 in revenue, and is it,
Yeah, that was, that is a cell phone tower owned by Explain.
the revenue?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm almost sure, but yes, I can break that. No problem.
it's just a number, unless I can't question the number, that's why I'm here.
Oh, I get it. I do. I can break it up. It's not deep.
Okay.
Next,
I think that is it, to be honest.
So you might note there, council about the engineering firm today. So Crescent Engineering is on site today. We had a great meeting in the morning. Clerk Treasurer, Director of Inspection himself, Mr. Crescent, and then Director took them out to around the community, and I think we're going to be very pleased with their services. They did come in at 60% less per hour charge than the other so
that was really okay.
so it's going to be really good for us.
Good cost saving and then we're gonna have some stability or some continuity or whatever and information and all.
Yeah, it's like having a municipal auditor or a lawyer. And you want to do the same firm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One last question. The fire apparatus, the memo was issued to council seeking approval for the exceedance of the cost. I don't remember that. What was the amount, or what did we do with it?
We haven't done anything with it.
Well,
I'm waiting to hear from the chief, because there was two pieces. There was one piece, then I wrote the memo. And then all of a sudden, the company the chief was dealing with before came back and said, oh, we have this other item, this other apparatus, and the prices are different. So I have to talk to the chief to see which one it best meets his needs.
Okay, so it's out of council's hands and
For now,
it's with the fire chief.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Good.
So we have the resolution, we need to move in second again.
No, you already have the mover seconder, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you already read that?
I did, Mr. Mayor.
It was a while ago, I'm sorry, I apologize. All those in favor of accepting the CEO's report, all those in favor? None, yes, okay, all in favor, it carried, no, seeing no objections carried. Who's trying? Okay, item B is clerk treasurer July monthly report. Well, speaking of the clerk treasurer, there's a lot of information that they can start behind, because she's been so busy doing other things, but whatever. I'm satisfied with what I'm reading. Is anybody any questions? Yes, Councilor Gunn.
Well, Mr.
Oh.
Mayor, you need to move this.
You move it in second before we move on, you're right. Councilor Diamond and Councilor Gunn.
Was moved by Councillor Diamond, seconded by Councillor Gattery, that council received the clerk treasurer July monthly report CTA 2023 005 as information.
Any questions regarding the, yes, Councilor Barron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Year-end audit. It says this is causing two problems, and the two problems. What can we do to alleviate the problem? What can we do? Can we farm out? Can we bring in
Yes. Go ahead.
something?
You can speak to that.
And so I've reached out to our auditors to see in the interim if they can provide us with some help. They too are having a hard time finding accountants. When at the time of this report, I had not hired an accountant. We have now hired an accountant. So what we're doing now is training Councillor Diamond. So if council's a little bit more patient, I would assume that come the middle of September, I can resume the audit, but then my full focus will be on the audit to make sure I can bring financial statements to council, hopefully by end of November. It's, if I'm being honest with council, just be patient, I will bring it to you when I can. But unfortunately, there's accountants are actually needed everywhere, and it's slim pickings, even our auditors are having a hard time. And at the same time, if I can add to that, even if we were to find somebody that has the accounting skills, it's our accounting software. Unless they've worked in the municipal field, they're not then familiar with our software. So then I need to get them training on the software. So I'm not really further ahead. It's just better if I focus on replacing the gap, which has now been done. Just need to do some training so that I can offload more work and then resume the audit.
Yes, Councilor Neil?
Your worship, so for the 9 items that are on hold. Are those things that we will have accomplished by the end of this fiscal year, or is it stuff you think is going to be running into?
I have no choice. They have to be accomplished. So definitely the audit. And because again, that affects the FIR submission, which affects cash flow from the OPF, that has to be done. In relation to the asset management plan, there'll be movement on it, Councillor Neil. Can I tell you we'll be in compliance come the end of the year? No, I think that would be, I'd be lying to you. You'll be probably compliant in the first quarter of 2024 with your asset management plan. We're now going to be behind on our budget for 2024, because theoretically I should have started it. If I'm not done the audits, I can't necessarily move forward with the budget. In relation to the museum report, I'll be able to bring some options to council before the end of the year. And I'll work that at the same time as the audit. And I'll continue to update council as I move forward.
Good. All right. Any other further questions? If not, then I'm going to call for a vote on the resolution to accept the report from the clerk treasurer. All those in favor of the report? Seeing no objections, carried.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So just so council's aware, the fire chief is on the line.
The fire chief is there now. So that'll be our next item. Is item C, is our fire department June monthly report. I need a mover and a seconder for the Councillor Neil and Councillor Ben.
Moved by Councillor Neil, seconded by Councillor Diamond, that council receive the fire chief June report FC-2023-06 as information.
Good evening, Chief Lamb.
Good evening.
Okay. Any questions regarding the report? Nobody, is it? Yes, Councillor Brown?
My name is Mayor. I guess my question is the fire chief aware that the tender process is in the fire chief's hands?
Chief Lamb, did you hear the question?
Oh, Dave, could you speak a little louder, please?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you speak a little louder?
My question is the fire chief aware that the tender process is in your hands at this moment?
No, I thought it was all addressed. The second truck they offered will not meet our needs. I conveyed that already. I'm not sure if Chris seen that email, but I did convey that.
So thanks, Chief. So you got your answer that I guess the CEO's got his answer.
Yep.
Yes, Councillor.
So where do we go from here? Are we?
Well, we approved the original one, last meeting. Oh, yes.
I cannot remember.
So the memo. We'll have to check and see. If not, what we'll do is
Bring it back again,
Okay,
so we can move ahead.
it says important as a grader,
perhaps more important.
yeah.
Especially if it's really bad again.
If I can,
Yes,
depending how the motion has been worded, if we have approval in the motion that has already been brought forward to council, we'll just update you that we started it. Otherwise, if there's no clear direction that we received approval, we'll be able to bring it back at the September 12th meeting.
otherwise we're moving forward. Yes. So we're gonna, well, we didn't, did we?
No, you're still discussing it.
Any further discussion on the fire chief's report? There's no further discussion or questions for the fire chief. We will, I'll ask for a vote on the motion to accept his report. All those in favor of the report? Thank you. Seeing no objections, carried. And we go into another report, we get the executive assistant.
Nope,
His July report, fire chief's July.
Oh, we got, sorry, I missed it. Forgot, fire department July month report. It's probably only have the one, sorry. Because we need the clerk to catch up on her
Oh,
notes.
no, go ahead, Mr. Mayor, I can
I
make.
just need a mover and a seconder for the second resolution. Councillor Diamond and Councillor Gadd.
Moved by Councillor Diamond, seconded by Councillor Gattery, that council received the fire chief July monthly report FC 2023-07 as information.
Any questions for the fire chief on his report? Yes, Councillor Neil?
Yes, your worship, just want to say thank you to Chief Lamb for all of his work and thanks to all the firefighters for their dedication. Appreciate it very much.
Ditto. Please pass along council's thanks to the firemen as you see them, please, Chief Lamb.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for the fire chief on his report? If not, then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the resolution? Alana? Councillor Schmidt, sorry. Thank you. Carried. Seeing no objections, carried. Thank you, Chief Lamb. You're more than welcome to stay online if you wish, but I also know everybody has a life. But thank you for your attendance. Next item is, I guess we have is, I finally asked our executive, talk about our executive assistant, June/July monthly report. So I need a mover and a seconder again, Councillor Rondo and Councillor Bennett.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Gattery, that council receives the executive assistant June/July monthly report EA 2023-006 as information.
Any questions from council on the executive? Yes, Councillor Bennett.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we noticed the safety retrofit sign that's been put outside. My question is, how have we, or are we spending that $100,000 on safety to the municipal office?
Yes, speaker.
If I can, so at the end of 2022, you had already spent 67,000 of your $100,000. A lot of it had to do when we moved into the building and we had to do some adjustments then. I can always bring a breakdown.
So, yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So are the remaining 33, is that a kind of funding that we have to spend in a certain location, or can that be used for other items within the office?
Yes, Councillor.
You have to be cautious because again, it's a conditional grant.
Conditional, thank you.
Yeah, it's conditional grant, right? So they've already given us rules on how we can spend the 33,000.
And we'll find a way.
Oh, yes, we won't give the money back.
Is there a time limit for the?
If I can, there is a time limit. If you're gonna ask me what that time limit is, I cannot remember. However, they've been receptive if we have not spent the money, if we ask for an extension. As long as we're up to date with the reporting, they're usually very receptive.
Yes, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is that money solely for the municipal office, or can we use it for the public works building in the prior?
Yes, Cass.
Unfortunately, it's just for the municipal office.
No further questions on the executive assistant's reports? Andy, was there anything you needed to add or? Thank you for your work. And if there's no further questions from the council, I'll ask for a vote on the resolution. All those in favor? Seeing no objections, carried. And our next item on the agenda is. Oh, did I miss something?
No, Mr. Mayor, I'd like the opportunity to address the next items on the agenda to council.
Okay,
So council, again, you're gonna see these standing items. Every time that that staff bring reports to council, these will be standing items that council just brings back a verbal report. You may not have anything to bring back, but it gives you the opportunity on the boards or the committees you represent to bring anything back at that point.
yes, I actually spoke with Burke about this because there's many times that I have gone to my DSAP meetings and so on and so forth, and I try to update the staff to the best of my ability, but I haven't updated council to the best of my ability without having it on the agenda. It's difficult, so now it's there. So the first item on the agenda, Councillor Diamond, do you have anything to report on the Bingham Memorial Hospital Board?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our last meeting was June 28th, we've done the summer. So we had an annual general meeting on that day as well as a regular meeting. And it was a capture of the year end, so. I don't want to use the word boring, but it was uneventful.
So it's really nothing to report.
Nothing to report. We did talk about a lot of the talk we do is about long-term healthcare. A lot of it has to do with Iroquois Falls and South Centennial Manor. We did some discussion about the retrofits we had here at our local Rosedale. And then we discussed the worker bees. And it's no different than the discussion we had here, that we're trying to go to a not-for-profit. And they have some work to Mix has some work to do, and Iroquois Falls has work to do, and Cochrane and we do. So it's the same discussion we have here, just on a general basis. So that's it. Our next meeting is September 27th, I think.
Yeah, imagine Wednesday or something.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you for your report, Councilor Bennett. I guess the next one is for me, and even though everybody gets probably started listening to me, just regarding the first item is DSAP, and the only meeting we've had because of the summer break, as Councilor Bryant mentioned, is we had, and I think you've probably seen a lot of that on the news, is the main issue or the main thing, reason for the meeting was the city of Timmins has a major concern with the housing issue with the non-profit, the homeless shelter, that DSAB owns the building. And the city of Timmins is involved in the operation of it and so on and so forth. And they're running into a major conflict, not as major as we have on some issues, but lots of concern by local residents and residents in general regarding its location. And the city of Timmins have brought it back as a resolution. They wanted it done in a timely fashion, so DSAP had to get involved to pass a resolution to move forward with hiring a third-party consultant to assist in determining where that needed to be moved to or how to move it and so on and so forth. And of course, the biggest part of that discussion is facility is in the city of Timmins. So of course, there was a discussion, there was an original resolution presented by a couple of the members of the board to have DSAP pay for the consultants, but the rest of the board felt that it was more suitable. Actually, the chair is the mayor of Timmins, and actually the chair recommended that the city of Timmins actually pay for the third-party consultant. So the rest of the municipalities aren't paying for facilities that are basically serving Timmins. I mean, obviously, shelters like that could include residents from outlying areas and probably do, but in general, it's a city of Timmins facility. So that's basically all that happened at the DSAP. And then I'd just like to talk a bit about AMO, and I just wanted to mention or add to what the CAO had already mentioned, we actually ended up with 4 different delegations. 3 of them were strictly from the municipality. And the 4th one was in regards to the South Centennial Manor, where ourselves, Cochrane and Erica Falls, met as a group delegation to talk to Minister Calandra about extending, well, right now, the South Centennial Manor project has got some major shortfalls on fundraising and so on and so forth, which is for a small catchment area, there's a lot of money to raise. And just because of the process and the way that whole process works for government approval on a new facility, they were gonna run out of time, and they were concerned about the ministry not allowing them to continue and so on and so forth. So at least that part got won. There was no extra magical money, no big checks handed out or anything like that. But Minister Calandra and his staff were very, I believe, Chris, that they were very, very positive in saying just to keep moving forward and understand that it's going to take a little longer to get things going, but that the provincial government is still behind the replacement of the old South Centennial Manor. So that's basically that happened on that. And then, of course, Chris had put together 3 fantastic professional delegations. I don't know if anybody's taken the time to look at them online. But and I was going to bring my copies in today just so everybody could see how professionally they were done. And actually, the different ministries, when we met with the Minister of Infrastructure, which the CEO spoke about, he was very, very, very cognizant of the issues that not only us, but all small municipalities are facing. And as the CEO said, has promised to at least respond and get some more information and help from his different co-ministries. And he was very thankful, actually very thankful with our presentation, thought it was very well done. And he was very receptive, even though, again, you know, the old standard story is we didn't bring any checks back, but at least we were well received, and our presentation was well received because it was very well done. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, the other one was the Minister of Agriculture, Minister Thompson, who again, we had a fantastic brief for the minister that Chris prepared, and basically I was the main presenter, since that's more or less, like Chris said, what they almost expect is that they expect the mayor, but they have a council to basically make a presentation to the different ministers. But we were very well received, and we actually pushed forward the issue. I don't know if the council probably remembers when we had NECN in to discuss the Crown land issue, which has kind of got stalled. And we're all frustrated, including Chris, who's our representative on NECN, just on it not moving ahead, basically stalled. And I've had lots of calls from cash croppers, from Mennonites, so on and so forth, still looking for their Crown land. So that minute that issue was brought up to the minister, and along with it, I know Chris might want to speak on that a little bit, but he's also a member of the Rural Ontario Institute on our behalf, and the minister is very happy that Chris is going to bring that forward to the ROI to have them help us move this whole plan forward, because the minister is happy with it moving forward. But again, there's also the issues with the Ministry of Natural Resources because of other, you know, whether it's aggregates or whether it's forestry, and everybody getting concerned about losing their areas of land. But at least that got moved forward, and it definitely piqued the minister's interest, especially with the way the report was prepared. And of course, I tried to make sure I flogged our issue with roads and infrastructure along with the broadband for agriculture. But again, back to our roads and our bridges that everybody loves to hear about our major issues we have on trying to cost them out, because with the additional agriculture, he even understands that with the extra agriculture, there's more wear and tear on roads. And that's not building new roads or building anything new. It's just keeping everything that we've got in place. And she realizes how important it is for us to be able to maintain them to a proper standard to allow the agriculture to extend. So that was very well received. Am I being pretty honest about that, Chris?
Yeah, that was actually the best meeting we had.
Yeah. She was all behind it.
And she recognized that Blackwood was as a key role to play in this clay project. And so Doug had mentioned the connection with ROI, and she wasn't, when she was reading through the brief, glancing through, she wasn't quite sure And then when I said that I was a board member, then she, okay, now I put all the dots together and she got it. So,
She knows we understand.
I talked to her when Doug was finished that I've been talking with the ROI board about having a northern presence for ROI, and then that northern presence should be here. And she liked that idea. I know ROI does, because right now they're in Guelph. That's where they're at, which is like, you know, Guelph University and all that kind of stuff is there. So she really liked that. I think we would get our support from her for that too. So we'll have to see where that goes.
Well, we'll have to wait and see, but the presentation was, I just wanted to highlight again that the presentations were accepted as being very professional and very well done. Never mind on me being impressed, you could tell the ministers and their staff were very well impressed with not only what they looked like, but the information was there. It was concise and it was informative, and it wasn't one of those boring dog talks. It was interesting information.
If we can, just for council's benefit, those, now that we had the council meeting and everything, those briefs, excuse me, are gonna go to the media. And they're also gonna be put on our website for our local affairs committee as well. They should be.
They just know what we're doing with these meetings.
Yes, absolutely.
And the other one was, we also met with the Ministry of Health. And of course, we were actually supposed to meet with the Minister of Health. And for whatever reason, she was unavailable, so we ended up meeting with her associate minister and our associate minister, I guess, and the deputy minister and staff. And made our presentation on, again, on, you know, the same issues we're all dealing with, again, is lack of healthcare professionals and the problem of getting it. And actually even the thought of us having our own family health team here. And again, there's nothing official again, but there is plans, the government is working on a bunch of different items. And excuse me, they made it kind of clear that they were at least interested in our ideas.
Just to fill in what Doug had said there, his worship said that he told us actually there was an intake to establish family health teams. I said,
We never seen them.
we never saw it because I would have jumped on it. But she said, wait a minute, it was, I'm trying to think, it was $9 million that they had allocated, and they got $300 million in subscriptions. So there's not gonna be much that's gonna be established there, so we'll see. There is this family sort of, these health teams now that they've established.
We're part of the problem.
Right, and we don't really know how they operate because they didn't talk to us. So I'm gonna be contacting them to get some information from council, how they're going.
I think it's kind of a parallel from what I can tell, almost a parallel to the LINs.
Yeah.
You know, similar idea, but it's supposed to be a health team or like a health team is supposed to be something for every municipality to glean something from. And like Chris said, we need to get more information. They couldn't even give us all the information. They weren't even sure which health team we were part of, but once I looked at it, it's called the Cochrane Company. So, and of course, the other regular items at AMO, the most important thing, I think, probably of all these conferences is the interaction and the networking you actually deal with. I mean, never mind, get a chance, I didn't get a lot of time, but you get a chance to speak to the premier real quick, you get to speak to MPs or MPPs real quick, you get to speak to other ministers that, even though we didn't have delegation to them, they recognize and remember us, and it's always good. Like, and of course, we attended the ministers forum, you know, where you get a chance to ask questions, and I didn't get to ask my one question I wanted to ask, but I actually sent that question off to them after the fact, and basically regarding the whole issue about housing is such a big issue, whether it's us or somebody else. Is, you know, the governments are talking, and we're gonna talk about it later on the agenda with greenbelt items and so on and so forth. Everybody wanting to build more houses and whether they're gonna build where. And basically, I posed the question to the Minister of Economic Development is, why don't, instead of worrying about where you're gonna build them down there, let's start moving a lot of that manufacturing up north and build houses where we have land. And we need more people. So we'll see. I'll get a response of some kind. It may not be what I want to hear, but at least I pushed that from. trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to mention from AMO other than that. Oh, the one thing I wanted to bring back is I know early on in when our council was first brought in or sworn in, there was discussion with these conferences and limiting how many people attend them. To be honest with you, I think a lot of these conferences, like other than the delegation items, a lot of the information at those conferences would be very valuable to each and every counselor. Now, each and every counselor may not have time to attend them all, but I think you all should consider attending something next year. You know, and I mean, yes, there is a cost to all of this, always there is a cost. But there's also, you got to balance the cost with the benefit, you know, whether it's not just education, it's knowledge and interaction and networking. And it's surprising how much information that you can learn from dealing with, you know, another community from Southern Ontario that we may not even ever think of. You know, you just like just sitting at the ministers forum, I was sitting beside the mayor from up, it was in southwestern Ontario, but north, but up towards one of the lakes. I'm just, it was one of those, he was a single peer community, you know, I'm trying to remember. It might have been, it was up in that area, but I don't think it was King Carter. But again, just, you know, interesting to compare notes on housing or, you know, roads and infrastructure and all that. It's just interesting. And I'm not just saying you go there just because you want to get interesting conversations. It's just interesting information you get and you share, you know, share contact information. And sometimes it's amazing when something will come across this table in some form or another, all of a sudden you can make a connection. And I think it's really, really important that next year that, and I mean, I don't think we've even come close to blowing our council budget per se. So I think it's important that we at least offer the opportunity in the future for other councilors to attend, whether or not they can or can't, that's up to them. But I think that's very important moving forward. And I don't know if anybody has any questions regarding any of that for me or. Yes, Councilor.
I don't know if this is part of AMO. I just looking for housing. I talked about affordable housing. I'm just thinking even for, saw a document on the news about immigrants that are coming. They're getting paid $30,000 in Toronto.
Bring them up here.
You can't live $30,000 in Toronto.
A month, maybe.
So that's when there is ways that we brought immigrants to the north, that we hasten the building homes.
And have them up there helping to build the homes that they can actually afford to live in. Yes, sir.
We are part of the immigration portal of Timmins. But that project is if you have jobs, let's say you're in a retail establishment and you needed some people, you could go there and sponsor them to come and work. And that's how they're getting into the country. And that's a good process. The problem is, you know, when you see these factories and whatnot, we built a similar Ontario, that's where they're going. And they're not coming here. So as his worker said, if the province would put their mind to helping people through the NHFC fund to establish small manufacturing and that type of thing, or small agricultural, then those people, like the Hispanic labor worker, might be able to draw folks through that program. The Ukrainians, for example, are, as everybody knows, are great farmers. So they might have some ability to that.
And just to add and finish my conversation on that, so we can move along, is the other item I mentioned, the Minister of Economic Development, which is Minister Pedelli, who I know very well. Anyway, and I also mentioned, like, you know, like at the conference, they were talking about, you know, whether it's a ring of fire, or they're talking about the nickel finds around Timmins and some of the other rare earth minerals we're finding up here. They're talking about that. And at the same time, talking about, you know, the electric or the new battery manufacturing plants. And I'm sitting there going, and they're worried about where they're gonna put houses for all these people. And I'm going, why would you want to move millions of tons of raw resources from Northern Ontario to Southern Ontario to build batteries? Why wouldn't you build why don't you build a plant up here, move the people up here, where you got places for housing? And make the batteries up here where the raw resources are. Like I realize they don't just move every ounce of raw resource, they do smelt it, they do stuff with it. But I'm just saying it still makes more sense to do the finished product up here. But whether or not You know, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are a heck of a lot smarter than me that have talked about it and thought about it. And I'm sure it becomes a political thing where everybody says, well, I want that factory in my county or my you know, my riding so that I look good. But the bottom line is it makes more sense to move a lot of that up. But anyway, I made the effort. We'll see where it goes. But that's basically it. Nobody has any other questions, I'll move on. And the next item would be to allow Councillor Neil to update us on the public library board.
Yeah, so we didn't have any meetings during the summer, and the major items, again, were broadband. Because that would basically shut down the library, they can't afford it. And my understanding was that when it was signed, there was no amount on the initial paperwork. So the amount became a surprise. That's probably the correct reason the township got involved in the process. Second thing is speed in front of the library has always been an issue. And they've used the flashing signs still, and it hasn't slowed anybody down. So we're still figuring out what can we do to get people to drive slow, because every day after school, kids go from downtown across that street to the library. And thankfully, no one's been injured yet, but again, it's definitely a danger zone right there. And so that's something we're still trying to figure out as a library board, what can we do? What can we ask for?
More signage, more pavement, right? None of it, it's all ideas.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, none of it works as good as enforcement, Councilor Bannon. I can't argue that point. But at the end of the day, how much enforcement are we gonna get?
We even mentioned the speed bumps and stuff, but that's the main road to go to the hospital. So no one's in a hospital needs to go through a speed bump.
Exactly.
There, so that's not.
It's just an ongoing concern.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Well, it's just a suggestion. Last time I was at the cottage, this may be a solution to this. I can take out the phone and show you the pictures. That look crazy, stopping in the middle of the road and coming out of my car to take pictures. These are seasonal to control the speed. They have them in a vein in Rouen, well, towards Rouen. They're just posts. They're temporarily put there. They're put there for the summer seasons. And you really have to drive between these two posts, so you have no choice but to slow down. I thought it was genius, and they're temporary, and I mean, the post is this high, it's got reflectors on it, and they can't cost that much to put them in. I did take pictures of it, I thought, because we have speed issues everywhere, and I thought it was genius, but then, like I said, it looked ridiculous stopping to see it, but that might be a solution for the library and for the township to look into. What's that? There you would have been around the same area. So
Okay,
they're
thanks.
just posts.
Thanks for the information, Chris.
So yes, actually, I sent a picture of those to the librarian at one point. She thought it was a great idea. Now that we've got James on board and talk to him about that. I've had to go through those things when my folks used to live in summer. Stuff like that. And yeah, you gotta slow right down.
You don't, you'll rip off your beer if you don't.
You'll like scratch your car or whatever, so they aren't good. But on the speed issue, I echo what the library is saying, I live right there now, and I'm surprised at the speed some people go. Particularly at 2 times, in the morning, first thing in the morning, and forward. And I just told one of those children that would get hit. So
That's not right, and to ask for more enforcement in an area.
we have, your worship, I talked personally to the OPP and they say, yeah, we can do that, and so then you see the once or twice, right? And I know the librarians also talk to them as well. So, anytime we requested it, then they seem to do that okay, but then, like, they just drive by, and don't radars.
So I guess we need to write them another letter, and maybe I have to get a little bit more forceful with my other.
Well, no, I think it's a matter of maybe talking to Israel. The tax manager, yeah, see if we might be able to do it.
Okay, we gotta do something now. Yes, Councilor Bannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we pay a fee to the OPP,
Why aren't they here?
why can't we? One, get a report from them. We should be getting a monthly report from them stating what infractions they've charged in what areas,
Yeah,
but also why. In essence, they work for us, right? If we're supposed to be. So why can't we say that we need you to set up the library for 3 days, for 2 hours, for the next 4 weeks? Why Why are we too afraid to ask that? Like, what,
And we shouldn't,
well, we are. We're
No.
just sending letters, but
we're not gonna send letters, because the CAO has good contact information, and I'm sure he'll share it with me, and I'll start battling away to the,
But we're probably better in a letter than babbling away, because babbling away, people lose focus, but if you give them their paycheck along with the report, I want that filled out, and here's what we want done, and here's the result I want for your next paycheck. You're gonna do it.
If I could, they are required with the contract that we have. Every municipality is supposed to get these reports, and it indicates all kinds of stuff.
I've seen one.
But it's, and I've only seen one since I've been here. Other places I got them on a monthly basis. When I asked again about that, I got an answer that was sort of nonsensical, but I'm more than willing to go back again and do that. Now, on the aspect of requesting to radar, you're likely to get the answer that our focus is on the highways, which to me, why are we paying money? Because I totally agree with you. But we have got approval on our police services board now. So that would be us in Airport Falls, Abitibi, and I think Flying First Nation. They're unlikely to participate because they're way old. So it'll probably be the three of us and maybe just the two of us, but that's the avenue that we should use for that. And so we did meet with the detachment commander, and I think we should do it again.
What do you do more?
Bring this item up again to the face to face.
Yes, confident.
Can we invite him to be a delegate?
Absolutely. Yeah, he'd be more than willing to come here and tell me.
Yes, I would. I'd like to put a motion on the table to invite him as soon as possible.
I know, I'm right.
She probably started writing before you asked.
I wasn't drawing, I was writing.
He did say when we met with him, he's more than willing to talk to me. So,
So maybe we should just have a point of having one of our meetings and having that.
Yeah.
Resolution, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fact is, though, the
You know,
speed's
right.
bad in all the towns in our municipality, like in Holker, like Euclid Street, it's being used, like. Some people are getting airtime off these bumps on their street, like, it's crazy, I don't.
railway streets is typically.
I like you said, I don't know how no kid has gone hit, I don't understand. And now that we have lack of policing. That's gonna be.
I think we're gonna get you a match. Should sheriff on, that's an extra. Sheriff on.
Nailed in the street.
That'll be that.
So, Mr. Mayor, that was moved by Councillor Diamond. I need a seconder.
In a second, we council on.
It's a pretty straightforward motion, but maybe I missed some of the details. Moved by Councillor Diamond, seconded by Councillor Rondo, that council request and or invite the local detachment commander with the OPP to an upcoming council meeting.
I think that's sufficient. All those in favor of the resolution? Okay, no objections carried. Are you okay there, Councilor Neal? You're good? Okay, and the next item was the NECN report, which would be Chris as our representative, but I don't think there's much to report, but you can go ahead.
Okay, so there are 9 reports in the Clay Hill project. I have none of them. And I don't think any of the board members do, which is part of the problem. So yesterday I got confirmation that I need to sign this non-disclosure agreement. I can't give them to anybody, I can read them, but that's about it. On Friday, I'm going to Timmins to meet with the chair and Dave Landers, the CAO of Timmins, and I'm unsure what that means about. But I was not going to stay here. I've got to go to. Yes, and I've heard some things that I'm not sure of that don't make things good for me. Like I don't think they're good, and I don't want to share them with everyone. But I think that really will help us how to do it better. I'll report for things.
And hopefully we can move some stuff over.
Yeah, because just so council understands, there's a $50 million pot of money behind this thing. So, and somebody's got to
Move
care
there
about it.
and move it.
So therein lies my impetus for trying to talk to ROI, because they do that all the time, potentially about coming to Lenore so that
They can come up here and manage it. In our view, not from Gulf.
that's correct, yeah. That's my.
Any questions from anybody? Okay, that's good. The next item is regarding the Porcupine Health Unit from Councilor Gavin.
Okay, on June the eighth, we had a meeting and the Health Unit Board passed a resolution to request the installation of air quality monitoring stations in the whole region. It's very important because right now, there's no way to measure your air quality. You know, and
You see
basically.
the smoke or you don't.
Yeah, basically, it's like, okay, it's smoky today, so let's take the car. We're the largest geographical unit, like
Health unit.
health unit in the province. So it's pretty important that we are able to address, like, health. Is there, pollution can cause a lot of health concerns. So if we're monitoring the air quality, then we can intervene quicker, we can prevent, set up warnings early. Exactly. So, and another thing I'd like to note is that climate change has made air pollution much worse. So there's a very intimate relationship between the two. And I've been speaking with an individual from the Porcupine Health Unit that deals just with climate change, and he's spoken to Chris as well. And hopefully he may come to one of our meetings in the future to do a presentation. So that's about it.
Thank you for your report. Yes, go ahead.
To go with what Councilor Gabby said, so, they're just, the reason for the delay of coming to council, so that, I guess they want to get these stations together and get them implemented. And that would be an appropriate time, but he will let us know. And I think it's a very good thing, because of Councilor Gabby said, those are two very important items that are close to the.
Well, we talk about healthcare and lack of professionals law. If we can start to help ourselves, yes, Councilman.
So for these monitoring stations, is that any cost to the township or is that through the health fee?
No, it's through the health unit, the province would take
Just
care
paying
of
for
it.
And I see that we've probably got a resolution,
Yes, Mr.
so you can get a mover and a seconder, Councilor Neal and Councilor Ron.
Moved by Councillor Neil, seconded by Councillor Rondo, that council received the correspondence from the Porcupine Health Unit concerning the request to install air quality monitoring stations in the Porcupine Health Unit region as information. And that council support the request from the Porcupine Health Unit, the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks concerning the installation of air quality monitoring stations. And that council encouraged the installation of one of the air quality monitoring stations to be located within the township of Black River, Matheson. Therefore, be it resolved that council submits a letter of support to the Porcupine Health Unit endorsing the request for installation of air quality monitoring stations within the PHU area. And furthermore, that one of the monitoring stations be located within the boundaries of the township of Black River, Matheson.
Sounds pretty good and precise to me. Hey, if there's no questions, I'll call for a vote on the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution? Councilor Smith, thank you. Seeing no objection, carried. Thank you, Councilor. So our next one, I guess, will be a verbal report from Councilor Neil re the ad hoc recreation committee.
So just something, I'll try to get a meeting together soon, but a couple of things that have come to my thing. So one is this from Paris Bay, which is again another small community. They ran, it's called a NBA junior NBA program, which again, kids pay organizer pays $60. Participants are charged 75, and that went over really, really well in Terrace Bay, so it's an activity for kids. So I'll just either forward this to Lisa or with the ad hoc committee, just look at more information here. You can get more, and then as well, I'm getting information tomorrow, again, for up to 75% support for the splash pad. And so I'm getting an email tomorrow with that information, so I'll definitely forward that.
To Bonji.
Yeah, and again, look at, because they're saying up to 75%, so I'll get that to you. And so hopefully we'll have a meeting early in September. I'll send out an email actually tomorrow. And the other one that's not here, the accessibility committee, met with people of the accessibility committee, just we're gonna actually do a drive to different committees and just look at any public buildings that have any accessibility issues. And then we're back to the council.
Good, thank you for that. Yes, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Councillor Keith, who is on our recreation committee?
Well,
That's
we're actually, we actually need one person, we need one more person on because Councilor Brewer is no longer, I guess, I don't know if she's still on that committee still, or she's.
Shoot, sorry.
Send yours account.
So he's sitting there as a counselor, so you have Ron Benfey.
Yeah.
Who's another member. Bonji was the other one. Francis member, yes. And if I can, so Councilor Neil, with your efforts, you're not formally meeting with the committees because you don't have quorum.
Yeah,
So-
there is someone else that I believe did send email in. He works in the hospital right now. Name slips me. He does all like the Bob. Barnthwaite. Kevin said that he'd be interested in either the rec and the accessibility.
He said he sent an email?
I thought he'd said, when I talked to him, I said, you had to send something to the
I
township.
don't have
Okay,
anything.
so I'll mention it because that's back at the beginning of the summer. So they actually sat at a talk, so he said he'd be interested, so I'll talk to him again.
Yes,
So if we do it, we still need a counselor vote to sit on, so two counselors.
And once we get
Okay.
my own suggestion is if somebody wants to sit on there to make quorum or whatever, that's fine. But I think otherwise the Ward 6 council, whoever replaces that position, should automatically sit in that role, I believe. So is that pretty much it, Councilman?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And I guess our last item on that area again is a budget variance report. Ending July 31st, 2023. We just have a resolution here. I'm sure I need a mover and a seconder to receive the report. Councilor Rondo and Councilor Gaddard.
moved by Councilor Rondo, seconded by Councilor Gaddery, that council received the budget variance report period ending July 31st, 2023 as information.
Yes, yes,
If I could speak on it, Mr. Mayor?
please.
Okay, so council, I did mention it, I believe in the report. I did mention it in my monthly report. Bank recs have not been done since March, which means there are certain expenses and revenues that have yet to be reported. So when I'm providing you with budget variance reports, there's certain expenses and revenues that still aren't reflected. So until we're caught up, you're not looking at, if you will, a very
Accurate.
yes, an accurate picture of it. So I just want to caution you on that. The other thing too is when in relation to water, sewer and garbage, again, we're all under budget. There's nothing in there that's going to show that we're going to be over exceeding budget. When we look at water, sewer and garbage, which I provided council with a summary. So how it was presented was the budget variance report was printed from our accounting software, providing the details of all the accounts within your budgets. From there, I then did a summary page for the tax levy budget, along with the utility budgets. So if we look at, before we look at the tax levy budget, if we look at the utility budget, which has to do with your water, sewer, and garbage. So in your water budget, you budgeted $526,275 in water revenue. To date, you have reported $522,933 in revenue.
So there's not much in your arrears there. That's good.
The difference is $3,342. Recognize that we're still incurring interest and penalties. So as we move throughout the months, we'll incur more revenue from there. For water expenses, we budgeted $485,169. To date, you've incurred 280,851. The difference is 204,318. Recognize though that we haven't recorded the rest of the year when it comes to the aqua contract, utilities, and other major maintenance expenses that have been budgeted. So as of right now, we had budgeted a surplus of 41,106 for the water budget, which was going to be put into your water reserves. To date, you have a surplus of $242,082. However, you're not reached the end of the year yet. For your sewer, your revenue you had budgeted for was $442,422. To date, you have recorded $438,713 in revenue. The difference being $3,709. Again, you're still incurring revenue for interest and penalties on delinquent accounts for the months we still have to go through. Sewer expenses, you budgeted $398,112. To date, you've incurred $148,744. There's a difference of $250,000. Again, you haven't recorded the rest of your utilities, the rest of your aqua expenses, and other major maintenance costs that you've budgeted for that just have not been reported yet or purchased. Your garbage, the revenue that you had budgeted for was $61,272. To date, you have recorded $60,995. So there's a difference of $277. Your garbage expenses were budgeted at $49,016. To date, you've incurred $46,938. So there's a difference of $2,078. We look at the tax levy summary. So at the very top, the revenue that was budgeted for was $11,654,315,000. Year to date, we have recorded revenue of $8,716,033. Now, again, the revenue we've recorded, not necessarily do we have it all in cash. That's in between cash and receivables. So the difference is $2,938,282. Now I'd like to bring you down to the area of that page where it says revenue not reported. So to date, we have yet to report 2.9 million. Of that 2.9 million, 2.1 of it has to do with a breakdown of gas tax revenue that we haven't recorded yet, OSIP Nords funding that we haven't recorded, federal grants in relation to recreation that we haven't recorded. We have not completed all our supplementals. We've received more. And the library grant we have also not recorded. So as we move forward in a year, there'll be another 2.1 million that we should be recording in revenue.
We have the fourth quarter of taxes are due right at the end of this month too.
But that, yes, and that revenue's already been captured in the 8.7.
Okay.
And now we look at the expenses. So again, your expenses in your budget were $11,654,315. To date, you have incurred $3,667,115. The difference is $7.9 million. So then if I bring you down to the expenses not incurred yet, so of the $7.9 million, this 6.1 of that has to do with grants that we've yet to incur some costs for, capital purchases that we're, as you can see, council, we're slowly bringing to you, and then other projects such as gravel, which we still need to bring back to you, hot patch work, sidewalks, and again, some of the purchases from the fleet. So about 6.1 million we still have to record within the last third and fourth quarter of the year.
Good.
Yes.
Any questions for the clerk? Treasurer? Yes, Councilor Brandon. I would have been shocked if you didn't.
Thank you.
Or Judith.
Well, I think Ms. Ray, I have one question, but it's got 4 things in it, so. Let me find it here. I just want to ask a quick. Where did it go? Under. Under expenses, I just want just 4 general questions. 1,000, account 1,000, council general. It says promotion materials. What are promotion materials for council?
So your promotional materials are your quarterly billings. you buy township paraphernalia, so you know, pens, papers, whatnot. And then when we use the halls, that's also where we record them. So when we go from hall to hall and they charge us, that's the account of those.
Okay, what was the first one?
Quarterly, you know, your quarterly news bulletins that you send out,
Okay,
did charge, so there's a fee for that through the post
Okay.
office. That's where we charge the expense.
okay. Question two, general government mileage and meals, that's account 1100?
1,100, 121,
Yes.
okay?
So I just noticed that we're way over budget. Is that normal or?
So we're over budget by $565.
Yeah, but we're only halfway through the year.
So what I can do though, Counselor,
I'm just wondering where we,
yeah, I can look further into the account to make sure that we also, because this is the other thing, is at times there is human error. And we do post things in the wrong account. So I can just further explore the account, bring that back at the next meeting.
Is there a separate mileage account for council?
Yes, yeah, that's broken down.
And are we under on it? If we're way under on it, that would explain it. Some of the.
Well, I have to look
No.
at it.
I'm just asking, I can't remember.
no, we're not, you're over,
We're over on that too?
you're over.
I am?
Yeah.
What else? Is
So my next question is, what is employee relations 1100, 130? What is that?
That has to do with, so we have programs with the employees. So at the end of the year, we have a customer service reward. If the employee has reached any one of the increments under the policy where they get recognized at the 5, 10, 15, or 20-year mark. So what we do is we budget amounts in there, in relation to purchasing gifts as per the policy.
Okay. And then my last question is a generic one. Mileage and meals for the budget amount for Council Ward 1 is 2783. Mileage and meals budget amount for Ward 2 is 0. Mileage and meals for Ward 3 is 1098. The mileage and meals for Ward 4 is 1685, as is Ward 5, as is Ward 6. So just curious how we end up with 4 different budgeted amounts for councilors.
I'm thinking it's because we live out of town, you guys live in Mass.
Costs for sure.
Because I don't submit my mileage.
No, but they still budget for, it, I mean.
No, but the mileage and meals for council 2 is 0, and for me is 1098. I live
Yeah, that's.
4 houses from feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they can mail it unless you.
Yeah, well,
Okay, and I haven't taken any mileage from you, I'm buying.
it's still a budget amount.
Yeah,
But I'm just wondering why the amount would be
It
different.
got spread around.
No, actually, I'm gonna look.
Okay,
It was
Yeah.
probably based on past. Probably based on past expenses, yeah.
Let me look.
okay, thank you. That's the end of my questions.
Thank you, Council. So. Do we have a resolution to accept the budget variance report or?
Yeah, just to receive it as information.
Okay. And so I need to move in a second.
You already have one, I've already read it.
Okay, I'm sorry. So, we started talking, I just forgot that we've actually read it. So I'll ask for a vote then. All those in favor of the resolution? Seeing no objections, carried. We'll move into bylaws. Resolution for that one, so I didn't move into the second report. Councilor Wando and Councilor Diamond.
Was moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Diamond, that bylaw number 2023-42 being a bylaw to establish health and safety accountabilities procedure, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 29th day of August 2023.
Councilor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking at 10A. 10B, 10C, 10D, 10E, and F. That's a lot of, I don't know if things change or if we ever had a policy, if there's new policy, but I don't know, and I don't know who knows, but a lot of stuff to read and to agree to health and safety policy. Given the last 4 days, just to read it, I don't feel comfortable approving any of that, I want to read it thoroughly. Because I think we all need more time. That's a health and safety policy is not something you decide in a short period of time.
And just a comment, and I'd just like to ask a question to the clerk. I'm assuming these health and safety and all these different bylaws and policies have all been developed and have all been developed based on legislation and so on and so forth, or?
We, just to cut to the chase, we didn't write them. I'm gonna let Fonzie explain this, but I'm gonna tell you that this is if you remember last year, we did this as well with some other policies. Through the forest software we have, and we got a check for how much left, 15,000?
I know we had to pay back, for the forest services.
Yeah.
But you won't do just over.
So now you can talk about the next.
So it's part of the health and safety excellence program. Last year we did round one, we got a relief, it should have been 15,000, but because Forest assisted us, we have to pay back to the services, we want to go with 10. Regardless, it's revenue for the township, and on top of that, we're more in compliance with data studies. So this is technically round 2 and round 3, we need 2 more stages of it. These procedures are provided to us through 4S, but 4S has worked in conjunction with WSID. So technically, these 4 policies and procedures, A, B, C, and E, they're already WSID approved because they've already been done by other municipalities and other programs. We're just adopting it, making it easier to remain in compliance, and so we're getting.
That's Councilor Bennett.
Where, so twofold, if we don't approve them tonight, is there a penalty or is there a time limit? But the second part is, you had said that all other communities have adopted these. And refer to Chris's training where he said, don't worry what the other guy does. I don't feel comfortable approving something that a government agency has written. I'd rather read it and read it. I don't know if the other councils have read that, but that's just a lot of descriptions and definitions, and if there's something in there that we miss that doesn't pertain to us, could that put us in jeopardy?
Well, and basically, my own, I don't know, any other council have any comments towards this before I speak? Because my own comment is, Monty wants to speak.
So for part 1, we have until April of 2024, so we have plenty of time to do this issue. Bring it back at a later council meeting. As for the second part, you're not going to be in violation or any rule when it comes to passing these, but it's more so for our benefit, for our health and safety. But what is in these policies is basically like they're approved by WSID, so they already look for them favorably than if we were to write our own. So like we're paying for us for the services because they're giving us a leg up and helping us get health and safety of this.
That's Councilor.
So is this something that's renewed annually? Like, is this an annual thing that we look at, or is this something brand new that's been brought to the table?
The Forest Health, the Health and Safety Action Program has been since last year, so we're working in conjunction with other services, and WSID is actually using the open. It's a newer program designed to get organizations to bring more awareness. It'll be a one-time rebate, so they only want to do it for one stage, but it was so successful that they did 2 additional rounds. That's why it's important.
More directly answer Councilor Neal's question. We wouldn't review these annually. We would review them, maybe every 3 or 4 years, staff bring about the changes, or when there was a change to the occupation of health and safety, and that would require us to make a change to this.
And my own, and again, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but just my own comment on this is yeah, I didn't read every last word of this document. I basically considered some of these items to be subject matter expert topics that basically our staff is responsible for reviewing and ensuring they meet the requirements of what we need to do. And personally, I feel fine with accepting and approving them based on the need to have them in place. And I don't think anything I read in there that I'm going to change it personally. That's just my own personal opinion, and I'll leave that to everybody else to say.
When I'm reading it, and again, I'm like a speed read, but again, some of this is to basically some of the training we took as counselors when we first came on. When I look at as far as for harassment,
Yeah.
rule, disciplinary rules, et cetera. And then I look at on page 12. Section G references, so. Well, Occupational Health and Safety Act, all those references as far as where they. So
The professionals put the stuff together.
I'm probably okay with that perhaps, so. Don't think we say things on the recommend, but just.
We have a resolution.
Councillor Diamond had a second.
Just, I guess my question was Mayor, is, has anyone read this truthfully? All four documents front to back?
No, I stand them all.
I'm asking anybody, has anyone?
I quickly sped read through the whole of them.
But
That's not to suggest that we're perfect either.
No.
It is possible.
yeah, I'm just saying, we're giving this, yeah, someone, I looked at it, looks okay, and then a year down the road, there's an injury to somebody. And he didn't contact the project supervisor because we don't have a project supervisor. And we're in a lawsuit.
Basically, my feeling on this is something staff is required to review and bring to us. In its form that's correct, and based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's actually been put together by a professional. So that it should meet our needs and our staff is reviewed, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
So do we have a project supervisor?
That would be the supervisor of the project,
What project? Like,
so whatever the project is that the employee injured themselves on. So it'd be specific to whatever project. it is.
so if the guy falls off the new grader,
Yes,
his project supervisor would be,
the working foreman.
and then that's labeled in there that there's no. When, I'm just saying, why did it say working foreman then? I'm just,
Well, and I'll. I'm sorry, go ahead. Well, I mean, go ahead. Kathy, anything you want to
At
add?
times, it's not always the working foreman.
Right.
At times, it's other staff members, so that's why it was more general to me, projects.
Mhm.
So it depends on the project, like your example is perfect, if they hurt themselves in the grader, it would fall under the working foreman in that case.
And James, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I just want to say, as it's always been interpreted everywhere, no matter what the title is, we'll always go to whoever is directly supervising.
So at least it's super.
So that's my point, is that under that label, it said project supervisor or who is directly.
I know what the grade book says.
Um,
It's pretty clear at the end of the day, if whoever's the working foreman or the person that's the lead hand or the senior supervisor, whatever, so somebody's gonna be in trouble if they didn't follow them.
Who was in charge of that employee?
As long as someone read it back to forth and it falls within what we do here as a municipality.
On the policies too, Councillor Diamond, our employees are required to read through it and sign off on it, that they've read it, and we keep those documents. We do that with pretty much all of them. These are particularly important. For the reasons that you stated.
I read that, I don't see that, that's the whole thing.
And I'm not suggesting we bulldoze through anything unnecessarily, I'm just suggesting that we have staff that are in place to ensure this stuff is put together correctly for us. And basically for me to read it and try to make any changes, like I'm not the subject matter expert, Councilor.
Could I make a motion just for the first?
I was just gonna say, we have
So that
the,
people do have time to read it, make sure.
I just need a second.
Just need a second, Councilor Gannon.
If I can ask, in the interim, if you're reading through it and you do find something, let me know. I can make a change, like right then and there to that, and we can have that forward. As I said, I read through them all. I didn't see anything there that offended me or that I would be concerned with. I did make a few small changes. They were only small. You know, I do agree with Councilor. It is important that you read through these documents, and I would always encourage you to do that. We don't do this and bring anything else to this for something that it is, so that we folks understand the policies that we put in place. And if you remember back to the council training too, we indicated that there were two pieces of legislation that can draw criminal liability, the Occupational Health and Safety Act. So health and safety is a very serious.
I know my previous life, we dealt with all of this stuff. And when I was reading the verbiage, it sure sounded familiar, not to say I read every last word. But most of the verbiage sounded pretty similar to what I did for 30 some years. But anyway, We've got a motion to place.
Yes, I'll read it, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, please.
Moved by Councillor Neil, seconded by Councillor Gathering, that council defer agenda item 10A to the September 12th, 2023 regular council meeting to permit more time to review.
That cover off D, B, C, D, and
No, Mr. Mayor, that's strictly for agenda item 10A. There's different motions for each one, so if that's the case, you'll move for each one.
okay. So. So is big D gonna be the same circumstance then, and C, D, and E now?
But we have
But
eight
Mr.
days on
Mayor-
the table.
Yes,
So we're gonna-
Oh,
I've read the motion for A.
Okay,
Okay, so you have that motion on the table. You will have to then table
Well, each
another
one,
motion.
okay.
Yes.
okay, all those in favor of the motion? Seeing no objection, carried. Mover in a second. Councilor Rondo and Gavin.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Gattari, that bylaw number 2023-43, being a bylaw to establish an injury, illness, and incident reporting procedure, be read a first, second, and third time, finally passed this 29th day of August 2023.
Is that for 43 or 42?
43. Bylaw 2023-43.
Okay.
We just did bylaw 2023-42.
Oh, I thought we did. Okay, oh yeah, you're right, sorry. I'm reading the top line instead of the next line, sorry. So you've all heard the resolution. All those in favor?
Oh.
I thought we were deferring one, supposed to defer all.
In order for a deferred motion to take precedence, you first have to table the original motion. I
Okay,
know it sounds silly, but it's a procedure. And then before voting, someone needs to table now that you want to defer it.
okay. Councilor Rondo and Councilor Gavin.
Okay.
I gotta have myself too.
Just give me a moment just to write out the deferral. Can I read the motion?
Please.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Gattari, that council defer agenda item 10B to the September 12th, 2023 regular council meeting to permit more time to review.
All those in favor of the resolution? Seeing no objections, carried. Then we're gonna go to item C, and we need a mover and seconder to refer.
You need a mover and seconder to table, then you'll need another mover and seconder to defer.
Okay, I got Councilor Rondo and Councilor Gatti again.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Gattari, that bylaw number 2023-44, being a bylaw to establish a training and communication procedure, be read a first, second, and third time and finally pass this 29th day of August 2023.
And now we need a motion to refer.
Yes.
And then mover and seconder to refer. I got Councilor Rondo and Councilor Diamond.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Diamond, that council defer agenda item 10C to the September 12th, 2023 regular council meeting to permit more time to review.
All those in favor of the motion to refer? Seeing no objections, carried.
Oh, not yet. We still have a good hour.
Okay, well, it's 10.
Yeah.
I thought it was 9, sorry.
You're on 10D, Mr. Mayor?
10D.
Yes, 2023
Get a
45.
mover and seconder to table it. Got Councilor Rondo and Councilor Gatti.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Gattari, that bylaw number 2023-45, being a bylaw to establish a workplace health promotion procedure, be read a first, second, and third time and finally pass this 29th day of August 2023.
And somebody want to move and second a motion to refer Councilor Neil and Councilor Battle.
Moved by Councillor Neil, seconded by Councillor Diamond, that council defer agenda item 10D to the September 12th, 2023 regular council meeting to permit more time to review.
All those in favor of the resolution? Seeing no objections, carried. So now we'll move into E, and I need to move it to second. Councillor Neil and Councillor Gadd.
Moved by Councillor Neil, seconded by Councillor Gattari. That bylaw number 2023-47, being a bylaw to adopt the compensation of municipal employee as volunteer firefighters policy, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 29th day of August 2023.
Yes, Councillor Gadd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been waiting for this for a while, so I appreciate the draft. Section D, clause 3.0. It says here, when they have completed or performing services as a volunteer firefighter or prolonged events in excess of 8 hours, that the manager will adjust the volunteer firefighters' work schedule. Where did just curious where the 8 hours came in?
I don't know. I'll have to look at it again. It's been a while since I wrote this.
Is that because that 8 hours is on the workday?
It's not for us. It's, wait a minute.
Yeah,
Yes, I think it is. I think it is. Yeah, it came from our work. Yes.
So what you're saying is that if volunteer firefighter is at a prolonged event, a house fire for more than 8 hours, the schedule the following day has to be adjusted because of,
Well, I guess we wouldn't want, I wanted to recover, right? So. So we could do that by adjusting his work schedule for him. So he didn't lose any pay the next day. Right, so.
can I move
I
on?
tried to write this as literal as.
If I may, I have some follow-up on this. When we go to other absences. 3.0 other absences. And I hope I'm reading it wrong, 3.08. Should an employee require time off after a fire or other emergency to recuperate, they must request approval of vacation, blue time, or unpaid leave from their supervisor, approval of which will not be unreasonably denied. The way I read that is, if a volunteer firefighter goes to a car crash at 1 a.m., gets home at 5. If he's unfit for duty now to go to work the next morning,
Yes, we use vacation time. I don't think that's intended.
That was, well, that was intentionally written that way. But again, I can't think that circumstances, if that's offensive to council, that's. That we can certainly change.
okay. I work for a large company. And if I work at a fire or a car accident, I call in, they pay me my wage
For what period of time?
for my next day. I work 11 hours, I get paid 11 hours. That's their commitment to us.
Yeah.
The McEwen Mines is the exact same thing.
That's how it was when I was on the fire
Yeah.
department from McEwen. Was doing the
So
same thing.
we're in a position, we're trying to attract and retain firemen. So 3A and 3B are both unpaid. 3A is going to an emergency. I think that we should pay them. To say that you have to take a vacation because you're unfit for duty. The next time the pager goes off, the guy's gonna say, I'm not going.
I gotta work tomorrow. Same.
I gotta work tomorrow. And we have a hard time. I've been in a car accident with 3 people.
Yeah, no, I just, listen, I don't disagree.
So I
The
would.
clerk's taking the notes, we'll make those.
I would like that changed. And that's my personal feeling. And 3B is if he's off for firefighter training, public education duties, stuff like that. A lot of training is on the weekends, but public education, so if we have a seniors day, if we have some sort of public education, we're bringing in kids, it's not an all-day thing. There's never 8 hours of, if the employee or employee of the town needs 3 hours off to walk the kids to the fire hall, I think that's just as important. Fire prevention is
Yeah.
key.
I think that area there, could just have some terminology in there that it requires the approval of the director or whatever for, on those instances.
Yeah.
Just so that it's not just one of those, you know, and I'm not suggesting anybody would abuse it, Councilor Diamond, I'm just saying, just so that the director is aware, so he knows what's going on with the staff and where they are.
That's sort of the voice.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing is he doesn't know how to come to work in the morning and he's got no employees.
Yeah, and again, shall not be unreasonable.
Yeah.
I think that's a key term to have in policy. Locations.
Mhm.
Just on the 3.0, just as a, for that, because people can't take advantage of that, I'm not saying the firefighters would. I think there probably could be a time frame, if they're working a day shift, I think they're probably distinguishing between if they're called out on day shift or night shift, because a lot of workers are shift workers. And so if you're getting called out, you come home from the shift and you're asleep for 2 hours, you get called out for 3 hours. You still have some time enough to recover, right, for the night shift?
Yeah, well, this is municipal what's going on.
Yeah, so
If they get home at 4:30 and there's a fire,
I think based on, there needs to be some times, because otherwise, it's like, well, I was up for 2 hours last night, I'm not, right?
Yeah.
I think it's gotta be like
There has to be a little
It's
more.
gonna be a-
details in this.
yeah.
we have, I mean, essentially on an annual basis, we have 2 shifts. The winter shift, our men start at 6 a.m. This time they're starting at there's a little bit of a difference there, but other than that, we want to make sure. So
We have had all night fires, or we've been at all night, or accidents where we've been all night. So that's where.
And you
definitely-
can't come into work the next day and you shouldn't take
They
it.
should, well, they become minutes of risk.
Well,
Yeah,
the bridge
no.
truck incident, that was a perfect example, we're all over 20.
And I think Chris is right, we don't want to overdo the verbiage in here. But as long as everything is tied back to being reasonable and with the director's knowledge. Yes, Councilor.
for or 3.08. There's really not a lot of time for someone. On a backhoe to call. The director and say, I need to go to this fire,
That's not what I was saying.
but no, I'm just saying is the verbiage in there says you need prior approval from your supervisor. Whereas for B or 3B, if you're a firefighter training, you've got a public education and 2-3 weeks left, you can get prior approval.
Yeah.
So that's the two differences.
Yes, Dean?
Just wanna, so just in that exact example, there's gonna be a million examples, but if I have a guy on a backhoe and he's taking a hole. I need to know if I got a hole up in the road, right? So I need that, he needs that approval because you're gonna create one emergency to sort another one out.
Yeah, Chris writes it in here that you're not gonna leave. To go to emergency that creates an emergency left behind, and that's written in there, and I agree with that.
So, because we're dealing with emergencies, right, and as James said, so simple text. Look, I got an emergency, I gotta go, boom, it's gone. James knows, and so then you can go and assign somebody else. The other thing too, to remember is that, if there was no notice, and I'm not suggesting, I think our guys are making it up. But if there was no notice, there might be a question in the director's mind or the working foreman, who the heck is the guy? Is he hurt? Like what happened? He fall in a hole? So but there are lots of reasons for doing that, because they said our staff. Letting.
We can gladly give the director of infrastructure a pager. But we're, all jokes aside, we do have an app on our phone that when we
Get a page.
get a page, it's called I'm responding, we click a thing that I'm responding, and it can send multiple texts to your spouse or your whoever, letting them know that you responded, so you would get that if
That's perfect.
you choose to.
And to the fire hall, so then at least
And-
people know who
yeah.
their page was.
Everybody knows who's responding, where they are.
Well, it's almost like an accountability board.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, yes, Councilor.
In 4D, 4.0D, compensation. Employees cannot receive concurrent volunteer firefighter compensation while attending emergency calls and being remunerated their normal township wages. You commonly refer to double dipping. I do it at the mine, and McEwen does. The minimum amount that we're paying our firemen, if you were going to take away 2 points,
Points.
Yeah,
2 points because he responded.
just leave it alone.
Yeah.
No, and frankly, I struggled with that.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit of research. But it's so constant. This is a progressive. For a township to have, a lot of places don't have these, but for the ones that do, there's a mixture of the way we do things. A few that I looked at don't allow. Sort of double they do things, some do.
I think so. That's the way it's happened, that would be solid.
It's not, it will not make a lot of difference anyways, right?
No.
Because you'd be talking about taking away the points, and really those dollars that are paid out are from this.
But then it
And
becomes
fairly-
time for you, because now the fire chief has to
Yes.
call you, did he get paid? You have to call James, did he get paid? Yes, he got paid.
Mhm.
It's just, we don't need a paper trail. And at this point, we need to make volunteer firefighting more attractive.
Exactly.
So we're gonna have. to accept this and then-
No, I have a suggestion for council when the discussion's over.
Okay, I'm done.
You done? Okay, here.
So council, that's the beauty of bylaws. You have third readings. Just to show that you're moving forward with it towards the public, I would suggest that we just amend the motion that you've done a first reading. I have all of your comments and we can bring it back for your second and third and final reading next meeting.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds good.
The council will agree. I think we should definitely, do that.
Oh, she moved.
Thought a lot of people sleep?
Can I read the motion?
Yes, please.
Moved by Councillor Neil and seconded by
No, I'm
Councillor
just-
Gabbard. The bylaw number 2023-47 being a bylaw to adopt a compensation of municipal employees as volunteer firefighters policy be read a first time this 29th day of August, 2023.
All those in favor of the resolution? Thank you. Seeing no objections, carried. The election is understood by housekeeping.
If I can, yes.
Yes, Scott, please.
For the next one, Mr. Mayor, so. Mr. Mayor, Councillor Dunn has.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we go to 10F. I don't know if I can I put a motion that when this bylaw 2023-047 is passed, can I make a motion that it be retroactive? Do I just need a seconder to do that motion and retroactive?
Sorry, what to be retroactive?
A lot of our firemen thought that this policy was in place. So if I could put it back to a couple months, March 1st, January 1st, I don't know, something, it won't be a huge budget amount. We're only talking about 3 or 4 fires, but we've been discussing this for a long time. And in doing so, you're going to make 3 municipal employees very happy. They were filling up the forms. And then it's in limbo because we didn't have a clear cut policy. But they're not coming to work based on the fact that they thought that there's no policy out there. And they're not getting paid, or they're going to do the public education training, thinking they're gonna get paid and they're not. And now they're sitting with a B in their on, so I'd like to make it attractive.
Councillor Dunn, because you're the one making a motion, to what's the date?
March 1st.
Mr. Mayor, I'll need a seconder to table it.
Councillor Rondo.
Moved by, okay, the wording is again on the fly. Moved by Councillor Diamond, seconded by Councillor Rondo, that council retroactive the CP 1401 policy for compensation to municipal employees to March 1st, 2023, once fully passed.
Passed. Okay, I gotta clean that. Passed.
You give it up.
Okay, all those in favor of the new resolution? Seeing no objections, carried.
It wasn't sure.
She will talk.
Mr. Mayor, it's nice to hear your humor.
Well, I gotta give everybody a bit of a hard time. Councillor Schmidt. It's just nice of you to take the time out of your busy evening to actually join us by Zoom. Thank you. So, where are we? Now we're into into S. So we need a mover in a second. Right?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just actually want to speak to this as well.
Okay, go ahead.
Council, you already passed this policy bylaw. Omers didn't like the wording that was used. So they sent us the proper wording they like here. It does not change anything in the original bylaw. It's literally different wording. So it's a housekeeping matter.
Mover to seconder, please. Councillor Rondo and Councillor Schmidt. I keep forgetting to look at the screen.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Schmidt, that bylaw number 2023-48 being a bylaw to confirm participation in the OMERS primary pension plan and the retirement compensation agreement for the OMERS primary pension plan, each has amended from time to time of the employees of the corporation of the township of Black River Matheson. We read it first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 29th day of August 2023.
All those in favor of the resolution? Seeing no objections, carried. And we can move on to unfinished business. I know, I guess we got some items to add at the end, but we're still moving forward with the agenda items. Item A. You got the follow-up information. You want to speak to that, Cass?
I can. I think the memo is pretty straightforward, but I can definitely speak to it. In essence, the invoice should have never existed. It didn't have the right to exist because we're governed by bylaw, by policy, by resolution, and there's nothing standing there that would permit for the invoice. So we'll continue to absorb that cost until we bring the new agreements to council, where all halls will have the same wording. So we'll be it was more for information to let council know we're going to be sending the family lodge a letter advising them, basically, you can get rid of the invoice. We're not charging
For this year.
for this year.
And hopefully we'll have everything in place for next year and make sure that they know. The council's aware, that's good.
Mr. Mayor, there's a motion, just so that way.
Okay.
I need to move in a
I'm
second.
moving to seconder. I got Councillor Neal and Councillor.
Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Rondo, that council receives CTMM 2023-08 regarding the insurance premium invoice for the family lodge as information.
And you are going to send them a letter.
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor of the resolution? Seeing no objections, carried.
Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just, if you do send out the staff memo to mayor and council to Mr. Audison.
I'm not sending the memo itself.
Okay, because if you do, you have CTM 2023-06 under the recommendation,
Okay,
and it's a 08 in your
okay.
in our agenda.
Was it the memo they were gonna get? They were gonna get a nice little letter.
Okay, thank you.
So item B, it's a follow-up from the delegation we had regarding council meeting locations. And we still haven't made a decision as to what we're gonna do, because we don't know what to do, because our options are pretty limited unless we want to spend the money building else. So how does council want to deal with it? Anybody have any comments? I know yes, Councilor Diamond, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's money well spent.
Yeah.
If we have to flop between the arena and take down for a hockey tournament or whatever it is between the arena and the library, if necessary, I think it's money well spent.
I know personally, I Councilor the gallery had that.
Yes, are you thinking the arena would be probably the better place?
The problem with the arena is it's noisy.
Well,
I thought the library would have been the better spot, but everybody seems to think it's busy. I don't know if it's busy or.
Yeah, library with programs in the fall won't be available.
And I don't think the arena is a very good option personally.
what about the family lodge?
When you have to rent it, but then you have to move and set things up and tear it down in the meeting. That's the problem with this. I know what the best resolution is, but we're not gonna get there from them. Yes, Councilman.
When we're having in-person meetings, we don't need to be online.
True.
right? Because people have, it's given notice, the meeting is a public notice, so no one can say, well, we didn't get no, if it's a public, that's what everyone is saying.
Then we don't have to do that.
And I know that's what all the council members have said from the beginning, that we do want public meetings, so I think that's something that we need to pursue for sure.
Like I know my own suggestion, but this is only my own suggestion, I'll defer to whatever council wants. But my own suggestion is we're having a in-person meeting in each of the outlying communities. And I know personally, we had that quick discussion at that time, was that let's wait and see how well received it is, whether people actually show up. And then if it's done, I think we should have one in Matheson, the same way, rent the family lodge and do one of our meetings there. And or libraries, whatever, but have a location that we have one meeting in Madison and then go back to this. I mean, this is far from being perfect. I agree. It's not the way we should be doing it. But moving things around every 2 weeks doesn't make sense either.
But the public wants to be attending,
I know.
and we promised them, we were supposed to have one in Shillington, one in Raymore, one in Matheson, one in Belgrade, and we haven't done it.
But they're scheduled.
There's okay.
If I can, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. So Councillor Diamond, Councillor Neil is right. If you're gonna go out to the public, you don't need to live stream, but you do have a policy that says you're recording your meetings. So equipment will still have to come. We won't have to bring a screen, but the rest of the equipment will still come, unless you set aside your recording policy. But you're gaining traction on YouTube, so you wouldn't want to discourage that now either.
No, I agree. But personally, my own concern, and this is based on 3 separate terms on council. My previous term on council, we were meeting at the basement of the old office building. We had, on average, we had one person attend the meetings on a regular basis, and it was the same person. So I definitely want to make it open to have an opportunity to see if people are actually going to show up. And I think we need to find a way to do that. But just say that we're just going to start renting a hall every 2 weeks, getting staff to move equipment and tear down tables and do whatever. For one person to show up every now and then, to me, doesn't make sense either. I want to find a way, not to tell people that we're not interested. I want to find a way to make it an option. But I want to make some sense of. And you know, like if the outlying areas, if nobody shows up in the outlying areas. And we try it there, and then we try it once here in Madison and nobody shows up. Well, that basically gives us some more input. It's just like your other comments you made, Councilor Diamond, about trying one thing before you try something else, just to see if it's worth doing. And that's all I'm commenting. I do think we do owe the public an opportunity. And if the public steps up and actually shows up, then I think we need to find a semi-permanent solution to this issue. That's my own opinion. But I will defer to council wishes. Yes, Councilor Brown.
2 points. I think we just try the arena. I don't care about the noise. Try the arena because we owe it to the public. It's going to cost. We'll bring our computers. We can bring our own plaques. You could ask the council to show up and help set tables. The cost is how much? It's not $15,000 to set up and it's staff time. I get that, and we're limited. I get that. It's part of life. Second part of my comment is if you're going to argue, you should sit and let Louise argue. If you can't argue as a head of council. Correct?
Right.
Okay, so in the future, if you're going to argue it, I'm going to call point of order and going to have you removed. Okay?
And that's no issue. I was just trying to keep things moving.
Well, let's follow the rules.
No issue.
I would like to try the arena for a couple. And that can be my suggestion. Try the arena. And if, like you said, no one shows up, they had their chance.
And that's why we're trying to read that findings. We need to try.
Yep.
Like I said, it's a suggestion. It wasn't kind of where we'll be. So we yes, yeah,
Okay, so there is a motion that should be passed,
okay.
okay? Because
We have to let Mr. Wilson know that.
well, it's not necessarily, well, yes,
Yes.
but it's also for the rest of the public, and
Yes.
also for staff and council. What are we doing here?
Yes.
So it's been mentioned the arena. We can do the arena effective when? And then at the same time, if we're moving to the arena, are we still keeping that rotating locations for Shillington, BG and whatnot?
Yeah.
So when are we going to the arena?
When are we going to the outlying communities? I can't remember.
September twenty-sixth, we are in the Raymar, because it starts September twenty-sixth and it goes all the way to November.
Right, so I thought we had a scheduled one in Shillington on October.
And that's very possible. I know we start September twenty-sixth.
Yes, Councilor.
So your worship, just for schedule, because it is scheduled already. We have our
Yes,
fall schedule. So once we have visited
Yeah, the three.
Shillington, Raymore, then have the one here at the arena. If that falls into December or January,
November twenty-eighth.
November 28th, then I would suggest that that would be the first one for Matheson.
There you go.
You know, the other communities. Definitely, I think it's good to go to the online communities. And I'm sure people will show up, may not get, you know. I think it's something, again, that people definitely want. I know it's what council has wanted.
Agreed.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
can. So just for council to know, so September 12th will be here. Up here, September 26th will be in Raymore. October 10th will be back up here. October 24th will be in Shillington, November 14th will be in Balganye, and then November 28th, if this motion passed, will be at the arena.
Then pending availability of the arena.
We'll just
Well,
make it
what
work.
takes precedence? So
Yeah.
I'm assuming the council meetings.
Yes,
Oh, we can do that?
yes.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if they had a function that,
Well, the thing is, if this is, and I'm just saying, if this is where you want to meet, we are now gonna block that off and we won't be renting the hall.
Okay.
So, that, if this motion's passed, if anything's booked, we're now telling them, nope. Tuesdays, every second and fourth Tuesdays, we can't rent this place. Okay, yes, I'm just getting details.
Okay. I got Councilor Gadri and Councilor Rondo.
Can I read the motion, Mr. Mayor?
Please.
Moved by Councillor Gadri and seconded by Councillor Rondo that council hold all council meetings at the following location: 1 Arena Avenue, effective November 28th, 2023.
All those in favor of the resolution? Any no objections? Carried. And there was a couple of other items.
Yes, so under other business, Mr. Mayor, which is
Okay.
number PR.
Okay.
So from the consent agenda, it's item now 5, the green belt, which was consent agenda item 5B. So I can read the motion and then council can direct
Okay,
accordingly, if that's okay.
yes.
I'll just need a mover and a seconder.
Moving to second, Councilor Neal and Councilor Gadri.
Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Gadri, that council supports the resolution passed by the city of Hamilton regarding provincial amendments to the Greenbelt Plan, and that staff forward this resolution to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and MPP John Bantoff and Amo.
And I know Councilor Neal had some questions.
Yeah, so my question now for these consent agenda items. What is the value as us as a township in the north? Supporting this, it's just as another township. Is it something really as impactful? I don't know, if it's impactful, then okay, great. Otherwise, to me, it's like we're not a part of that
Oh, nothing to do with that.
network. Anyway, go ahead.
First, you want to say something?
So we are the province of Ontario,
Yeah.
404 municipalities, 444 municipalities. And I'm gonna tell you sooner or later, there's gonna be an issue that you're gonna have, here when it comes to resolution, you're gonna want the support from as many municipalities. And so. He's thinking about that, right? It's important, unless there's some offensive reason why you would support a resolution, such as before you, then my recommendation is that you support these when they come.
I'm not sure again.
Unless there's something offensive to people about it, right? And that can happen. Because there are some of these politics and free right wing positions. But And I know that councils have probably heard a little bit of the green belt issue. Having come from that particular area of Southern Ontario, I can tell you that it would be it's a real shame that we're removing these last types of lands from there. It really is, but I also understand what the premier's saying. He's saying, look, like, what was it ever used? 5 million more people in the next 10 years in Ontario, you're gonna put them somewhere. And I'm saying to Doug, yeah, bring it to Northern Ontario, right? So it's.
Thanks, Chris. Pat, you had your hand up?
Well, it was actually just a comment, the CAO kind of just mentioned it. The reason I had added it to the agenda was because the argument is they need housing. Now, it's not reflected in your motion, but if you need housing, come up north. That's why it was on the agenda, and maybe that's just poor reflection from the clerk not making that known in the motion. But that was why I had reflected.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. I agree with Keith, but I also have a hard time giving my approval to something that I know nothing about. I've watched the Greenbelt on TV twice, but here I'm asked to give my support to something that I have not researched or really know anything about. So if I say, yeah, we agree with, where are we here? Hamilton. And then Doug Ford comes up and says, well, you agreed with that, you supported them. I was going to send people to your area, but now you're supporting Hamilton. So I don't, that's why I have a problem with 5B, 5C, 5D is I don't know enough about a lot of these other communities and what they're supporting. I'd have to research the Greenbelt Plan Amendment in order to say, yeah, I agree.
And just like a comment, that's another reason why I think it's good if councilors get the opportunity to start attending some of these conferences. Because when you're at these conferences, these hot button subjects are on everybody's minds and you hear lots of comments, opinions, so on and so forth, right? And I mean, not that you have to listen to everybody else, but it definitely makes you more informed. That's kind of.
Like the one thing that I did read, which again sort of goes to what you were saying. So when I look at in the one for Hamilton, on 1.3. 1.3 for this. Sorry. Direction 11, number 11. Again, when you look at wetlands in areas like that protected, because a lot of places in cities, they just cover in wetlands, like bury them. And so that's part of the whole end of the green belts is again not to allow them just to wipe out these areas. And I think one of the areas is the big agricultural area that's just north of Highway 9, correct? Yeah, and so that's a huge like agricultural area. So yeah, they're only looking one way really, and that's just in metro areas versus. I mean, there's other parts of Ontario to live. Personally, and all that's where I said immigrants. It'd be nice if they sent people north.
Like they did at the front of the century.
Yeah.
Yes, Kat.
So there's a motion on the table. You don't even have to take a position. If you don't want to, we could just remove it from the table as long as we have 2/3 consent.
Is council willing to entertain the motion or not? So I'll call for a vote and if we don't get quorum or pass it, we'll pass. So everybody's heard the motion. All those in favor of the motion. See a show of hands. Alana, yes, in favor? We have 4 and any objections? You want them recorded? I need to read them. I need to record them.
Okay.
Thank you. The resolution is passed.
Yes. Okay, can I read the next motion,
Please.
Mr. Mayor? I'm sorry, I need a mover and a seconder, and this has to do with Bill 3.
Mover to second, I got Councillor Gaddery and Councillor Mead.
Moved by
I'm
Council.
sorry, actually, I had Councillor Schmidt. I wasn't looking at the screen again.
Moved by Councillor Gaddery, seconded by Councillor Schmidt, that council supports the resolution 2021-90 passed by the township of Pushlinch, if I said that correctly, regarding Bill 3, special powers and duties of heads of council, and that staff forward this resolution to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MPP John Bancroft, and AMO.
Any questions regarding the resolution? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the resolution? Any objections? Objecting, Councillor Schmidt? I couldn't tell if she, Councillor Schmidt, were you yay or nay?
I'm a yay.
It's a yay, okay. I wasn't sure. I just wanted to clarify it. I want to make sure I've recorded your vote correctly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
Can I read the next motion, Mr. Mayor? This
Please.
has to do with the Northern Institute of Chronic Pain.
Yes.
I just need a mover and a seconder.
Over to seconder, I've got Councillor Gadri and I've got Councillor Ron.
Moved by Councillor Gadri, seconded by Councillor Rondo, that council supports the resolution RC 23163 passed by the municipality of Wawa regarding Northern Institute of Chronic Pain, and that staff forward this resolution to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MPP John Bancroft, and AMO.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If someone could explain to me what this is. I'm not too sure. Come from Wawa, maybe Chris is.
Can you speak to the first one?
I was just gonna look it up in my computer. Juice.
Councillor, you there?
Thank you. That's-
No, I'm just wondering, it has to do with medical, college physicians and surgeons.
There's walking.
It's about pain management.
Okay, so, yeah, so I think Walla's got the right tactic here on this, but we're calling. So pain management, as everybody knows, is a big issue. Quite often it leads to opioid addiction, which then leads to homelessness and a whole bunch of other things. So,
But the main point, I think, is the last line.
yeah, it always is, right? And so what they're saying here, requesting that Ontario maintain OHIP coverage for chronic pain treatments.
Yeah, not to take opiates.
And so, because doctors are, they're gonna give you a prescription for opioids, right? If your pain is bad enough, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And so OHIP should be embracing other methods of pain.
And the only good pain management clinic right now available is in Sunday, and the owners I know that because I've been referred to them.
So, no. So
It's
it's,
only okay.
Okay, I got it.
We're okay with the resolution. All those in favor of the resolution? Seeing no objections, carried. That was the last of those, wasn't it?
Yep,
Now we're
we're supposed to go into closed. I'm,
supposed to-
Now?
going to pass our limit.
yeah, so you can pass a motion now that you want to stay in closed, sure, till 10:30. But come 10:30, you have to come out.
Does council wish to proceed with the close? Yes,
I'll
council.
make the motion, see, 10:30.
Okay,
Let's get her done.
and we have a seconder? Council Ron.
I'll leave the minutes. So, so much.
With being here at 30.
Well, actually, let's just move, going to close, and let's just take a break while Angie and James get to leave the room, and then we can do our thing.
I'll close out.
Very good.
Okay.
So all those in favor of going into close, resolution?
Mr. Mayor, can I please read it?
Oh, sorry, I thought you had.
No, let me, I know we all want to break it. Can I just do the motion?
Sure.
Okay,
I thought clearly that.
no.
Councilor Gatter got up and started moving. I heard you very good.
Okay, can I read the motion?
Please.
Moved by Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Rondo, that council exercise their right under the procedural bylaw to stay in session until 10:30 PM.
All those in favor of the resolution? Very good. And then we'll we'll get the resolution, we're moving into close before we all get up and start moving.
Yes, I
And
need
then move in a second. Councilor Rondo and Councilor Diamond.
Moved by Councillor Rondo, seconded by Councillor Diamond, that council now comes into a portion of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 9:49 PM in accordance with the municipal act to discuss a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board and litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board and or personal identifiable individual under section 239(2) subsection B, 239(2) subsection C, 239(2) subsection E.
All those in favor of the resolution